What's going on, people? What's up? 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 We gooning? We're always gooning. We're always gooning. You can't see my hands. You can't see my hands. You don't know what I'm doing. Bro, I'm gonna have to be goon free for 7 days on my vacation. On the open air prison they're sending me to, okay? Anyway, I was browsing, scrolling Twitter a few minutes earlier, alright? And I didn't see this post actually. I saw one of the econ people I follow reposted. Kyle, it's like Kyle Palmer or something. This post is insane. There's a post a little bit ago, or a article a little bit ago called like there's a trade surplus in. I looked it up because I was gonna mention it, but there's a trade surplus of poorly reasoned protectionist pieces. This is one of those. Okay, this shit is insane. Tariffs are a consumption tax. Definitionally wrong. Like you're lying. Okay, good one. Substituting consumption taxes for income taxes increase in investment. Like, no. Because they're not a consumption tax, and also tariffs invite retaliation, which other taxes don't. Productivity and returns to labor, and obviously anytime you reduce after tax like income, like you're gonna reduce the returns to labor. Like your consumption tax will reduce the returns to labor because you could buy less shit because the shit that you're buying is taxed. Economists know this, but they pretend they don't when they talk about tariffs. Yeah, that shit is insane. That's his basic argument. Okay, tariffs aren't just tools of trade policy. They're consumption taxes by another name. They fall on goods brought into the country to be bought and consumed. Obviously, it's ignoring all the goods that are either intermediary goods, inputs for companies, or capital goods, as in, the machinery that they import, right? Like a lot of, like there are plenty of factories in the U.S. that make stuff, that are, and the machines themselves are made in other countries. For example, semiconductors rely on machines that can only be, semiconductor production, I should say, rely on machines that can only really be made in the Netherlands. That's not, so you're not taxing consumption, you're taxing investment there. The result of tariffing semiconductor machines from the Netherlands at 10% when these are multi-million-dollar machines is that you're just not going to get semiconductor production in the US because companies are just going to do it in Canada or just going to keep doing it where they are currently doing it, right? Like, yeah, you're entirely offsetting what remains of the Chips and Science Act, okay? But, and then we get to the best part, okay? Then he acknowledges that he is aware that tariffs cause distortion that consumption taxes don't. He says the textbook claim that tariffs distort trade by shifting resources away from their most efficient uses. But that's assuming global trade is already efficient. In reality, it's riddled with foreign distortion. So you're admitting this is not an issue that consumption taxes have. So like definition, like you have, like, yes, brother, you get it, or you get half of it. Obviously one reason they're not consumption taxes, the bigger reason they're not consumption taxes is that they tax capital goods and inputs. But the other reason is that even if you're taxing only consumption that comes from other countries, right? So that's still an inefficient tax. Like, why are we favoring one type of consumption over the other when obviously tariffs have all these other effects, like taxing exports, even if other countries don't retaliate, which other countries are going to retaliate, you're still reducing, the supply of dollars in the foreign exchange market, and that's going to hurt American exports. A consumption tax that zero rates exports is not going to have the same type of negative effects on American exporters. And that's, hey, by the way, guess what, guys? Shocking. Guess what? A lot of American exporters buy use intermediary goods that are in their production. They use imported goods for their production, okay? Believe it or not. Okay? The car companies, although they complain about U.S. cars not being exported as much as they should, but there are plenty of U.S. cars that are exported. Those car companies rely on imported parts. Because the word tariff sounds cooler. Yeah, I know. But then, dude, this shit is insane. So he says, China subsidizes exports, suppresses domestic wages. I don't know what the evidence is for this one. I don't know. I think this is probably just him complaining about Chinese wages being lower than American wages. I don't know what steps China is taking to actively suppress its wages. Manipulates this currency, which this one is true. Two of those things are true. Germany imposes trade, but this is insane. Germany imposes trade barriers and depresses domestic consumption. Dozens of U.S. trading partners operate both tariffs and non-tariff trade barriers, including border adjustment VATs that double tax American goods and rebate their own. So. Let's go through these claims. Okay. 1, tariffs are consumption taxes. Okay. But 2, tariffs actually aren't consumption taxes because they distort trade. 3, distorting trade is okay because trade is distorted already by other countries' consumption taxes. What are you doing, though, dog? What the fuck? Like, yeah. There's no way this guy has an econ degree, right? I don't know exactly who this guy is, but did you see the new server emote? I don't think. Oh, the pregnant monkey, PPG pregnant monkey based. Kill me. I thought it was gonna be someone replying to my post, but yeah, I tweeted about it. I said, this guy claims that tariffs are consumption taxes. Wrong. Then he claims economists are hypocritical for supporting consumption taxes but not tariffs. But then he reveals he does understand that tariffs cause distortion that consumption taxes don't. But that's okay because trade is already distorted by other countries' consumption taxes. Dude, let's go. What an intelligent person. Does this guy do debates? Okay. Get this guy hop on stream. Raised in New York City, most liberal neighborhood, conservative by the grace of God. Ask me for my signal number. He writes for I don't Breitbart. I've definitely heard Breitbart before. It is a respectable institution. I'm looking at it. Doesn't look like it. Some reasons not to trust Elon Musk over Donald Trump. Incredible. But this guy, man. And then I remember someone posted underneath it too. Some bullshit. This guy is not popular, so maybe I'll debate him. Novan, do you think small tax, less than 5%, disincentivizes tax evasion in black market? Probably. I'd imagine, obviously, the incentive for avoiding taxes is lower the taxes. Give me a second. This shit is stupid. And I don't have time to. Well, I'm gonna have like 15 minutes. Nations can tax their economies in 2 ways: internally or externally. Internal taxation at the federal level primarily involves income and asset taxes. Income taxes tax earned income, passive income, capital gains, and more, affecting both individuals and businesses. Asset taxes, okay, blah, 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 blah. By contrast, external taxation, by contrast, focuses on sales taxes applied to imports. Tariffs is fucking stupid. Anyway, what's up? Okay, nice one. Okay. Where are my DMs with Isaac? Isaac, come back. What the fuck? Whatever. Okay. Obviously, dumb. Like what? Like maybe we could come to. Okay, maybe me and this guy, if we ever have a conversation. Okay, we could come to a middle ground. Okay, like maybe if he considers a DBCFT an external tax, okay, I'm all in favor of. What the fuck was that Isaac guy doing for real? We could hold hands and be in favor of external taxation, whatever the fuck that means. But Jesus Christ. Critics of tariffs argue they're harmful because they function as a sales tax. No, they don't. That is so. I think I will. We're talking about the Democrats today. The issue with the Democrats, okay, is that they focus too much on the consumer cost argument for tariffs. Okay, that's actually, I don't think that's an issue with the Democrats, because that is what is most salient to voters, is whether or not the prices are going to go up, and not the effects of tariffs on foreign exchange rates and the effects of tariffs on business investment and all those more like nuanced things or whatever. But no, tariffs are not bad because they raise prices. Tariffs are bad because they lead to an inefficient allocation of resources. Weren't you the guy who sharded on your mic midstream like 3 weeks ago? If Anna Kasparian is right-wing, since Trump is the 47th president, that means we can combine them and make an AK-47. Can we do that non-fun? Yeah, I think we can do that. No, that was not me. Who was that? I don't know. I'm pretty sure it was Isaac, right? I mean, we did just see from Isaac utter incompetence, okay? So it's not joining the call then immediately leaving. So it's not a stretch to assume that he might be is incontinent the term? Is what I think incontinence the term, right? He might have some incontinence as well. I can fart. I wonder if Nafan wants an AK-47 for his B-Day. I'm not into guns at all. I could not tell you the difference between the AK-47 and a M4 or whatever. Not want to hear me out. M4 is like the Vietnam War, like Fortnite AR gun, right? I think. I don't know for sure. I think I can. Isaac, do you want me to read this DM on stream? I don't want to read I don't want to read a paragraph. I'm not gonna. Can we get anti-sales tax non-fun? I mean, I'm like I don't think like the retail sales tax we do in the U.S. is optimal. It's not progressive. I would prefer. I'm not okay. Listen, I is a Boy. I ain't a Boy. Okay, I love inequality so much. Inequality is great. But I generally do prefer taxes to be progressive. Obviously, retail sales tax is progressive. You have issues with the way retail sales tax is implemented often, and it ends up taxing business-to-business transactions way more than it should. I think the one estimate I've seen is like 40% of the revenue from sales taxes is actually business-to-business transactions, and you don't want to do that. What's up, Nick H? Welcome back. Ideally, like a VAT does not tax business transactions, but a retail sales tax does essentially accidentally sometimes. Punishes you for using your money when tax should punish people for not using money? No, I think. What do you mean? I think so. I think saving is actually the preferable thing. That's what drives long run growth. That's what decreases interest rates, and it allows more borrowing and investment to happen. I think obviously that's why it's way more efficient to tax consumption than it is to tax savings and investment. You don't want to tax savings and investment. You want to tax consumption. Okay, if you are to tax anything, okay, other than the unimproved value of land and resources of which there is a, fixed supply. But cash flow is what the economy needs. I mean, I don't disagree with you, but I view that as much more of a monetary policy thing. So just keep NGDP on track, right? Just keep printing money, baby. Okay, just have 4% in NGDP growth per year, and that, keeping nominal spending, which is what that is equal to. NGDP is equal to nominal spending. Growing at 4% per year is probably more important than the consumption tax when it comes to that. I would really only and also, by the way, savings finance future consumption. Like, you have to, it's not like that money's doing nothing forever. You have to spend that money eventually. So you're going to see higher long run consumption because your tax is gonna, presumably not taxing savings and investment is going to increase growth. It's going to increase worker productivity through all the investment we do. That raises wages, which means more people buy more goods. There's a paper I read, Argument for Consumption Tax, that it had two estimates, but both of them seemed really high to me. But it was we're gonna see 18% more consumption in the long run or whatever because or I think it might have been 18% real wage growth in the long run because of the consumption tax. But austerity is coming, boys. Get ready. Maybe if Elon Musk wins out, okay, but don't worry. We have the big deficit spender, patriot in control, Donald Trump in office. Never fear, okay? MMTers in control. Oh my god. Would you be down to go on verbal combat panel today? I can't do, I don't think I can do it today. What time is it today? This is I'm not even finished packing yet, and I have to leave at 6 a.m. tomorrow. I was just saying that we should tax speculative value instead of, I don't think so. I mean, speculative value is that is investment. The reason it's speculative is because it's investment. I could see, so there is an argument to be made. There are some estimates that a lot of high frequency trading, a lot of high volume trading is just noise and not actually rational investment. It's just noise. So maybe there'd be an argument for a tax on high frequency trading. But why do you not refuse going if lack of service is expected? What do you mean why not refuse going? It's not really really an option. And two, I have fun for the most part. I'm not totally against it. My friends would be really disappointed if I didn't go. Now, fine, quick random question. What are the odds on a small city-wide UBI project failing? What do you mean by failing? I could see many ways in which it could fail if it's implemented pouring. It would be unexpected to me for it to have overwhelmingly bad outcomes. I could see politically it fails at some point. Or it's not implemented very well and has a lot of inefficiencies. But in terms of it having negative outcomes, other than most UBI studies you find are single mothers stopped work, reduced working hours, or people took more time to find jobs that better suit them, which is not actually necessarily a bad thing overall, because presumably they could be more productive in that job, and also, their happiness does matter if they take a job they care about more. And you see students, reduced working hours as well. So it's not like there are, non-negative outcomes or whatever all the time, but there are, it's no, free lunch. Okay. There can be negative outcomes, but I would expect overall it to have probably, positive effects. So you'd have to specify what you mean by failing. I do think one of the I forget his name. One of the people I've read a little bit of UBI from his Substack or whatever, I think has I think he's talked about the need for more what are they called? They're called saturation studies or whatever, I think. Right now, a lot of UBI like pilot programs and studies are like you give X amount of you give 100 people a UBI and you track them and then track 100 people in the same location who didn't get a UBI and compare them. And there are advantages to doing that. There are reasons you want to do that, obviously, but also it could be useful to have two cities next to each other, give everyone in one city a UBI, everyone in the other city don't give a UBI, and measure those effects as well. We don't have a lot of studies like that. Single mothers, children, and the elderly not working is a sin. That's true, actually. That's true. How do we increase working hours of single mothers is the issue of our time. Okay. What's up, Patrol? We should just financialize everyone so that UBI is not automatic and give people and people still have to make good choices. I mean, like, we just I mean, obviously, if you have these types of mean tests or whatever, like, there's administrative inefficiencies with that, and then it's oh shit, I gotta join this. When I have 2 minutes, okay. Oh my god. I don't know, like, empirically, like, we just don't I don't think we observe that welfare really makes people make worse choices. It does not seem like that has certainly not such a big effect that welfare becomes net negative or UBI becomes net negative. It's fair if you watch with one hand. Often, in which room does the Fed hide the money printer? I mean, they don't hide it, right? It's in the New York desk, right? That's how they conduct all their open market operations. It's not hidden. Like, give everyone a hunk of money at different stations in their life, and they have to make it to the next milepost. Oh, I mean, you could, I don't know, you can play with incentives, I guess, but, I don't know. They mark up the size of the account. I would say, like, yeah, that is the room they do it in. That is the room where they do the open market operations. No, I mean, the one where you crank it and pumps out money. I hate to break it to you, buddy. That's actually, Elon Musk found that. You should ask him. Patrol, I got to join this panel, but I do want to say, to Patrol and chat, but most importantly, Patrol, because you gave me $100 yesterday. If we, last chance to finance me at this station in my life, because I'm going on vacation tomorrow. So everyone get their last minute donos in. Although Isaac is here right now. Note that while I am away, Isaac, JC, and Renyold will be streaming for me a little bit. They'll be hopefully multi-streaming to my account and their account at the same time, so you guys won't be completely starved of content. And I'll have YouTube video scheduled for when I'm gone, so make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel as well.
Oh god, they invited you in? What the fuck?
I know, that's what I'm
Stop,
saying.
he got a haircut. He doesn't look like Big Bird anymore.
Oh great! Oh great! Wonderful. Actually, who is all in this?
Let's fucking go! I can't believe that word, Patrol. Thanks for the $100. Thanks for the $100 dono. Let's fucking go. I'm road tripping as well. Have fun. I hope you have fun. I hope you have double the fun I have. Okay, and I'm about to have so much fun. So we actually rented a car for the road trip. So I am legitimately not going to mind this 8-hour road trip I'm going on. But I hope you have double the fun that I am having. Okay, hell yeah. I love you, Patrol. I love you. I love you. I'm robo-tipping. I'm marking up the size of your account. I appreciate it. And by the way, just so everyone knows, it is tipping, okay? Non-taxable income.
Brad from Europe actually hits pretty well. What's up?
First, you gotta mute yourself in the share together.
Oh, my bad.
And then you need to click the shared chat.
Oh, did they disable that as a normal feature?
You just have to auto-click it.
Auto-click it. Okay, that's weird.
Sorry,
where the
I'm not
fuck is
following.
that?
Are you streaming as well, Tosh?
Oh, they added a step. That's fucking annoying.
I think once you like accept it to do that, it pretty much auto does it every time.
And that's weird. It never even asked me to do it originally.
Ah, well. Once you do it,
Wait, fuck, am I in share chat?
All right, I'll be back.
Wait, so what was that?
Oh, this is the shared chat for the streaming stuff.
Oh.
Since people wanted me to start streaming again, I was happy in retirement, you fuckers. Just gonna be a angry moderate over here, just slinging shit at everybody, you know, in the corner. But apparently, people liked it enough where they want to keep me around. Weirdos.
Yes, I am here. I'd say I'm to the left of you a bit. So
Pretty sure we're all moderates here.
I still don't think I'm lefty. Like a lot of people think that I am. I guess there's an argument for some level of center left, but I firmly believe that I'm center right. Like I care far too much about like order and hierarchy to fit in with a lot of the modern left, particularly the leftists.
What about your empathy circle?
What were you saying?
I was gonna say, how would you describe your empathy circle?
I'm not sure if I know exactly the doctrine that you're talking about, but it's just my general feelings of empathy. There's some that I'm really good at. There's some that I think need a little bit more work.
Well, I was just saying, like, there's this study with the circles about how conservatives value people closer to them, and liberals value all people or all things. I don't know if you heard of that before.
Yeah, like progressivism. It's interesting because like you can see the
What the
difference
fuck?
between like leftists and liberals in this is that leftists actually try to care about everybody and then end up caring about nobody. Where you know, like conservatives tend to be very what is it, concentric circles where you have like your spouse, then your family, then your like local community, like whatever your fucking organization of choice is, and as a state or as an American. It's kind of interesting to see like where everybody stacks up.
Yeah. and
Fantastic.
Do you have? Oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna ask, do you have like an idea of? Do you care? Do you fall more on the liberal or conservative side of that?
Sometimes I bat 50 on everybody. There's certain arguments that I give very strong credence to from the left, as in even if I believe in like some level of protected borders, we are shutting down people who want to be here. Right? We say we're a great nation. We say that, you know, we're awesome, and we are. And then when people show up on the door, we're like, nah, get fucked, losers. Like, there's something that bothers me about that, 100%.
Interesting. That's actually a good segue into what we're talking about tonight. I think we can talk about the empathy circles. One thing on that, I do find when we talk about the empathy circles quite a bit. I've heard a lot of like people on the left equate the idea that like I saw, what was that study that was released not too long ago where they were like, oh, conservatives care about, you know, them first, their family, friends, and like community, right? And then it's like people on the left care about, you know, humanity or whatever. I'm just, you know, I'm not making it all. I don't remember. It's been a few weeks, but like I found it interesting because that was immediately equated to like, oh, the left is more empathetic, and in my head I was like, I don't know if that's true because I feel like at some level people on the right are more empathetic in regards like, oh, if like this is somebody I've known 10 years and they're having a hard time, I'll take them in, I'll take care of them, I'll give them a job, or like, you know, whatever. But if it's like random Joe on the side of the street, we don't give a shit, right? Like, or it's like, no, they got to do this. I don't have any personal connection. But like the people on the left would argue that this is less empathy. I'm like, well, I think it's just empathy in a different way. I don't know if it's more or less, but I don't know.
It's a different form. Like that's
Right,
the argument
yeah.
that the right needs to make is that we have a different order of priority on how we empathize with people. This is one of the things, like, I will not only speak for the right, I will say this is what aligns me with the right. I do acknowledge that I have those circles. I do acknowledge that I'm going to care more about the people that I put in my inner circle versus the people that I just happen to walk by. Like that, I think that's just something innate. And I think most people are going to do that. It's just this wild level of altruism gets to me, but that's for today's chat. I will probably tag that. I guarantee I will.
Sure,
Yeah, that
I'm
sounds pretty
sure.
conservative.
But yeah, let's jump in. Yeah, I've got to say we're using the word conservative and right very loosely right now. I'm just
Well, it is-
Here we go.
Here we
go.
Well, so I noticed today I formed us a group of experts today, or internet experts, to discuss the Democrats being in shambles. What's the path forward? I've done a couple panels on these, and they have been very widely, I would say, varying in results on like what people think. And so we're gonna try one more here and have some fun. I think it's interesting. So I've gathered all of these people I think are leftists, are at least tangentially aligned with leftism in some form or way. Whether or not they be citrus or not, I know Tiberius is cringy, but that's okay. And we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about this. We're going to see what's going on. How can they win back the voters? I'm sure we're going to talk about a litany of things like where young men are going, all these things, the empathy circle, and why is grass always green on the other side. Let's start with Tyler. Give us who you are, where you find you, and your intro and all that good jazz.
My name is Destiny. You can find me at destiny.gg, and big fan of ignoring consent.
Yeah.
Jesus.
All jokes Twitch. All jokes Twitch. He's also talking about GTA and not talking about any band.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Destiny Rose, if you're listening to this bad, you should stop accosting men at the bar.
Yeah, the Gibbs is not having a band streamer on him. I'm just kidding. I actually respect consent and actually appreciate women, not just say I do on the internet for clout.
Fantastic. Let's go non-fun.
I'm Nonfon. You can find me at nonfon.gg. That is not a joke. I own that website. All my socials are linked there. Yeah, I'm a neoliberal. I stream on. You can watch me defend the globalist world order at Nonfon on YouTube and Nonfon420 and Twitch and Kick.
Fantastic. Thanks so much. We got a new guest today. We got Tosh. Tell us about yourself, who you are, where to find you. Yes, hello?
Where's Tosh?
No.
The Ivory Fool. You got the
Ivory
wrong
Fool.
fool.
Ivory Fool. We got the fool. I'm the fool.
Sorry.
That's the joke. My bad. We got the streamer mode on, so I couldn't see. I just saw the T, and I went for that. So my bad. Bad intro. We got the Ivory Fool here. New person today. Go ahead and tell us who you are, what you do.
Hey, I'm the Ivory Fool. I used to consider myself a neoliberal, but I'm kind of like slowly moving a little bit further left, but I'm pretty moderate. You can find me at Mr._Ivory Fool on YouTube.
Fantastic. And last but not least, we got Mr. Tiberius. Tell us who you are, what you do, where to find you.
Yeah, I am a reluctant streamer. I tried to retire. I got pulled back into it for some fucking reason. I don't know why. Yeah, here's my rap. I'm a trades worker. I'm from Indiana. I, am liberal enough to watch Star Trek, right? And I just kind of hate everybody. I don't like where we're at as a country. But I don't really sink into anybody's particular vibe because Democrats have really lost the plot for me, and Republicans are batshit insane. So yeah, it's just fun to tell everybody that they suck and then not pick a side, I guess. But anyway, thanks for having me on here, Gibbs. It's fun.
Fantastic. Let's get into it. The Dems are in shambles. What should we do? Tyler.
Well, I really think this all starts in honesty and integrity. It really, at the end of the day, Democrats have a trust issue right now, and a lot of that has to do with them pandering to their far left and them also trying to pander to the center. The center is 10 times the size, much more likely and needed to pander to in order to win elections. So at the end of the day, I think that they need to repair their integrity, repair their image of being honest, and repair their image of being people that seriously want to govern the nation. And a lot of that, for me personally, starts at the day that the party accepted gender theory and everything after it. They need to kind of revert back to somewhat Clinton 90s Democrats, because the only one that beat Trump was Joe Biden, who was a new Democrat, a little bit to the left on free trade, more of a tariff guy than Clinton was, but big on crime, big on border security, all sorts of things that the party now seemingly has abandoned, and each one of these issues is a massive losing issue for them in the polls. So,
fantastic. Thank you so much. Non-fun.
Yeah, I mean, so one, I do think Democrats are a little bit lost right now. There's some amount of infighting happening, but I also don't think that's a bad place to be after you lose an election. Like, I want these conversations to happen. I don't think it's an overall bad for Democrats to be having these conversations. But look, obviously, I'm gonna be a neoliberal. I think Democrats have to get better at governing. So that looks, we should be able to point to California and say, if we win, we are going to be able to govern like how California is governed, right? But we can't do that right now because California can't even build high-speed rail, okay? But I also think Democrats just need to kind of adopt simpler, broader, more bold messaging. Like, it seems like that is what is really effective right now. And I'm not a populist, but I do think that you should try to lean into populism, at least by having just simple, broad messaging like Medicare for all, which Americans don't even know what that means, but just message on Medicare for all and then do a public option. That's my position.
Thank you so much. The Irish Fool?
I think the biggest thing that is harming the country right now is polarization, and I think that Democrats should be really focused on that. And I think that the way that Democrats and Republicans are experiencing a governmental legitimacy crisis. Always stumble on that word. And what they need to do is actually create institutions that include people in the public policy making process. Right now, the policymaking process is very, it's driven by career professionals, it's driven by union leaders, it's driven by activism leaders, it's driven by government workers in state governments, federal governments, and it's also driven by, scientists and policy experts. And so the key piece that isn't here is like the average person, the person that you're going to canvas to and say, what's your idea for how things are going to run? And we have tons and tons of experiments that show when you get a bunch of regular people into a room with each other and you have them deliberate about a policy, they all come away with it learning something new, and they can generally find a good policy to come to a consensus on. I think the research is getting clearer and clearer, and that is something that we need to be building more and more into our political environment.
Thank you so much. Tiberius?
Yeah, I'm going to give a quick general assessment, and then I'll kind of get into my opinion. The assessment is that we are not in a position for the Democrats where I think they should walk outside and Sudoku themselves. It's not a lost cause, but it is something that they do need to work on, because I do think the trend line is definitely getting worse for them. For the first time in 100 years, Republicans outnumber Democrats by party registration, and that's something I don't think the Democrats have even started to talk about. They're not the popular party anymore, and that's a wild fucking take for the party of FDR, but that's where we're at. How we got here is kind of a whole, I used to be a Democrat. Part of it maybe was just getting older, like we can go down the whole thing, but a lot of it's a laundry list, and some of it's just my own personal problems. But also, I did move more right as I got older. So here's kind of the take. If I had to describe the Democratic Party in one word, what is something that is endemically a problem with them? It's arrogance. This is a party of people who are generally educated. That's true. They are, 100%. They're generally pretty wealthy. That's also true. But it's gone to their fucking heads. And I don't think they relate to the common American to a degree where they actually think that they do. I don't think that they are...
Thanks for following Exile.
They market themselves as the party of the CEO and of the boardroom. That's how they're trying to market themselves now. But how the rest of the country sees them is that they're the party of HR. Hi, I'm here to help, but I'll fuck over everybody in the process. That's how they're seen, even by me. And I'll still vote for them from time to time, right? Democrats have to fix that. That's just the reality, is that if they are going to tell everybody that they're smarter than everybody and they're more moral, they've got to walk the walk, and they have nobody's confidence in this. If you want to play a different game, if you want to bring down that bar, you're going to have to embrace some ideas that are pretty out there. Good luck. I don't know how you do that one. Anyway, I'm done.
Fantastic, appreciate it. Let's go to Ivory Fool here real quick. You said something interesting. I'm gonna, I guess, maybe summarize a little bit with the wisdom of crowds. Seems to be an apt way to describe kind of a portion of what you were saying. You want to expand on that a little bit?
Sure. So, I think a big part of what happened as in the 50s, 60s, 70s, even going back to the 30s, is a lot of what drove politics were individuals that saw a problem and they said, I'm going to go and fix this. I'm going to go and community organize to try to fix this problem. And then over time, that turns into people making careers out of that. It turns into the government saying, okay, we're going to actually make this systematic so that it's more efficient. And so as that kind of happens, you have, rather than regular individuals that now have time, that are in the middle class, that have time to kind of give back to their community, you have career professionals that are doing this. And then at the same time, you have econometrics becoming more and more popular. people using econ models to make policy decisions, and so now you're driving policy through metrics, and it's becoming more and more difficult for the average person to kind of engage in that process. And then you have another factor with unions
There's no way.
becoming more and more regular,
Econometrics.
and union leadership
Econometrics
now
over the
not
median
becoming
person
a group of
any
people
day.
all
Any
that,
day.
that have an
Are
idea.
you kidding me?
It's career
Any day.
professionals that are now leading unions, and so this idea of professionalization, the idea of relying on metrics, all of these things kind of push the average person away from politics, away from policy creation, and their involvement now is in policy evaluation. And so that's how you get this like very litigious environment where this is how activists are trying to build grassroots movements, because we don't have these publics, these mini publics that bring people together, average people, and just have them hash something out like a jury would. And as we see in juries, they're remarkably effective. People, when you just get them into a room, regardless of what their political orientations are, regardless of where they lie on the political spectrum, they can come to a pretty good conclusion, and it's generally going to be one that isn't all that terrible.
The rest of y'all agree with that?
I agree with maybe about half of it. So I really don't I don't know exactly what that looks like in process. Like other than juries, like this sortition method just doesn't seem to exist in really like any type of democracy. So I don't know exactly what it looks like, but I don't want to discount it based off that alone. I will add though, listen, I just not that I hate the median voter or anything, but econometrics over the median voter any day, bro. I'm sorry, but like voters, like we have studies on this. Like voters don't really understand what inflation is. They view inflation, or like they'll view, for example, unemployment and like declining incomes as more like a personal failing of theirs. But like inflation is purely a policy thing that's very clearly only the government doing the inflation. The government could never cause unemployment. And they'll view like they don't understand what potential positive effects inflation could have. So like if you ask them about the trade-offs of inflation, they don't seem to be able to substantiate on that.
Sure, yeah, that's why you use sortition methods. That when you tell people and you explain to them these things, the studies will show that they will actually retain the information, and we need to start iterating over this over time.
Well, okay, let me just, I don't interrupt you, but let me just ask, because I think non-farm brings a point you're not really addressing. What does that look like in practice, like at a bigger level? Like, is that something that the primaries and the convention would handle? Because I know a lot of complaints, I'm sure we'll get into it more in a little bit, has been about, like, say, like Bernie Sanders and the superdelegates, right? And how he's screwed out of his spot. Like, what does, what you're describing look like put into practice?
I mean, there are local communities doing this all over the place, and some are even like doing it on an even broader scale. And it's basically just you have assemblies that occur regularly, like weekly, monthly, that people just come together and
like a PTA meeting or something.
Well, it's a PTA meeting, except instead of being lectured about what's going on, they're deciding on the policy. They're saying like, here's what we want to do, and you have a panel of experts that kind of guide the populace through the issue, and then you have the people like what they believe and what they think and what they feel. And that all gets kind of hashed out. And
a component for messaging is you have to trust the messenger. And the party has a massive trust issue. And one of them is what Tiberius brought up in his introduction that Nanfan just espoused, is he doesn't like the median voter because they look at the economic data that he looks at and come to a different conclusion. So they must be stupid. And that is how you isolate your political party, especially when the economic polling shows that the economy that he is a fan of was negative 25 with voters because of their massive mishandling of inflation, their attacks on the fossil fuel industry, and other things that drove the price of gas and inflation up. Granted, not all that inflation was Joe Biden's fault, but he did contribute to it a lot, partially with spending, and I'd say that personally the most with his first year anti-fossil fuel movement. So at the end of the day, if you just say, hey, you guys are just too stupid to understand our political message, not only is that a failure on your end to properly explain why your political message is better, but it's also like how you repel people from ever wanting to even listen to you, let alone vote for you.
I mean, the point that I was making, was simply that I trust the econometrics to, be a more useful tool in determining policy than, the median voter, and like, like maybe that's me being brain broken or something. Okay, because like when I would point to the econometrics to explain the like better policy outcomes that we get out of using these models or whatever. But I do. So I think
wrong.
Yeah, I think that sortition.
It's more that like this is, if you want a legitimate government, if you want people to feel that the government is legitimate, they need to be able to actually be a part of the process that determines the models and determines like the policies.
Yeah. So I don't have a huge I don't have a huge issue with you, Ivory Fool. I've never read a ton on sortition, but I know there are plenty of wonks I talk to who are very much in favor of these type of sortition models. But look, I mean, people say, and Tiberius touched on this earlier, that like, Democrats are like so educated and smug and like pro-establishment, and like they just hate the median voter. I just don't like see that from Democrats. Like, I will go on panels sometimes and argue like, yeah, I do think the economy was mostly good under Biden, but then like when you look at like Pete Buttigieg going to talk to voters on Jubilee, for example, when they bring up the economy, he's so hesitant to praise the Biden economy, right? He's like, at the end of the day, all that matters is how people feel, and like Democrats need to address this better.
Yeah,
I think a big issue is that Democrats just did not have simple, bold enough policy, right? Oh,
go ahead, finish that one. Sorry.
Yeah. I just think like it probably would have been better if Kamala Harris, although I do think she obviously had a better economic policy than Donald Trump had, but came out and said like, hey, you don't like prices right now? Well, guess what? We're gonna do Medicare for all, and you're gonna see a noticeable decrease in health insurance prices or something. But she didn't really do that. She just kind of said extend the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act for people making under 400K.
Before, hold on.
I'm
gonna go to you. I'm gonna say something. We're gonna go to you, and then we'll go to Tiberius, and then I'm full here. Oh, real quick. So, to what you just said, though, I don't know that it's necessarily some of the leaders in the Democratic Party itself, right? But I think a lot of it is also the talking heads, right, that come with kind of what Tiberius said with the arrogance, right, and all the way down, and the educated. I mean, we have an example this week that Tyler dealt with, where he had a difference of opinion with another person on the left, and they told him they didn't respect him. Do you agree with Non-Fawn's assessment, or he doesn't really see this? Because I see it all the time. I feel like.
Are they talking about Micah? I don't think they're talking about Micah.
Gibbs is right. He wants to recruit people, like versus the other one. I'm like, yeah, I purity test when I think it's necessary. Then we recruit most of the time, right? What do you agree with that sentiment that Non-Fawn's saying, Tyler?
No, I completely disagree. The smug party that spent 10 years pushing that we're a white supremacist nation at its root that needs to be torn up from the stem with the 1619 Project. The party that told you that men are now women, and no matter the fact that in some polls 78% of people reject this notion, it's now a fact. And if you don't,
why are you equating the Dems with progressive or like leftists? That doesn't really make sense.
This is the policy Joe Biden pushed.
But I mean, are you really gonna say that Joe Biden was like militantly saying like
No, he didn't say it at all. He just did it in his policy, the policy that he enacted.
Wait, okay, so then how can you say that the Democrats are using that kind of rhetoric?
That's the
do you not think
rhetoric
they
of
are?
the party as a whole, but you're saying it's
I
just
don't
the
think
progressives when it's the main Democratic Party actually pushing this policy.
I don't think that's the main Democratic messaging.
For every school that didn't teach his specific trans education that he wanted. So, I mean, that's him pushing this on.
Yeah, hold on. Let Tyler finish.
Yeah,
go ahead.
So when you have all these unpopular policies that most of people reject, and you just tell them that's the way it is, and if you disagree with me, you're a biget or you're a fascist.
Let's go walk your M4 Non-Fawn.
Nope.
Let's fucking go, Apex Eater. Thanks for the $5.
Joe Biden.
Hell fucking yeah. Let's get a twerk break for this one, baby.
Trump fascist, not like someone that doesn't like DEI.
Yeah, that's the same. Trump is
that is not the same.
We'll come back to that. We'll come back to that in a second.
Why say thanks for the bits?
And then we'll go to you. We'll go to you full. Go ahead, Tiberius.
Yeah, I'm not gonna try to butt in because I'll be an asshole if I do. But first and foremost,
okay, I can moderate. It'll be okay.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. First and foremost here is all right. I'm gonna come out and say it just so I can level the playing field. I think of myself as elitist, and if I actually had to look at the average American citizen and say, do I like you? The answer is no. Because our national motto should be don't think, retaliate. Like, that's how I see my fellow Americans, is that we're not a thoughtful people. We're not intellectuals. We don't desire to be them. The part where a lot of Democrats and a lot of more elites are getting raw on is that you can have a government with elites being prominent and practical, But you got to remember that this is a government that is built and run by normies. It is always going to cater to their will. It's always going to cater to like what they think is going on. It's just straight up what it is. Long story short here, you guys are not connected to them at all, and there's a lot where I'll even say exactly what Nonfon did, but I recognize that 90% of it comes off as extremely fucking arrogant. It's just oh wow, those fucking Democrats just think that I'm not smart enough to know their economic policy, but I'm gonna vote for them anyway. Like, that's how it comes off. It really fucking does.
So, Fool, you seem to object to kind of what they both described here, and saying that that's not a mainstream view. You're saying progressives aren't a mainstream view, and I think that's part of the argument. I guess we're probably getting into a little bit more today. Is should we be y'all be exalting more the extreme sides? I almost said we there, obviously not a Democrat. Should y'all be exalting more the extreme sides comparatively? However, I do feel like there is some truth, at least, to what they're saying. Whenever we have, Kamala doing something with the ACLU, saying we want to have transgender surgeries for migrants that are in, internment camps or whatever the fuck it was exactly. But when I see that as an actual policy position she stated as something she wants done to a major organization like the ACLU, and then we have Biden while she's the vice president legislating on it, does that not seem mainstream to you? Because you seem to arguing, it's not the mainstream, even though that's the policies they're putting forward.
Of course, I'll grant that Democrats have been supportive of some of these more extreme positions, or maybe it's not so extreme, but I'm not going to say that they are rhetorically putting their weight behind it. I think Kamala is saying this to ACLU members, and then when she's asked about it, she's walking it back, right? And the other thing is, I think the main thing that the kernel of truth behind this this view of Democrats as elitists is, I think what really has been happening is Democrats are we have this really good idea, and it's these darn activists that are getting in the way. They're getting in the way with legal challenges. They're getting in the way with random gish gallops of nonsense and stuff that we have to deal with. And I think that is a really real thing that Democrats are doing and have been doing for a long time. And that even comes when you're talking about progressive initiatives that we try to do this progressive initiative, this cultural initiative, and it's now we're getting bogged down by these backward ass thinkers and these moderate activist groups and stuff like that. And so it's I think the disdain for people trying to get involved in the process and slowing it down is, and there is also elitism as Democrats have become more educated over the last 20 years, become more wealthy and educated over the last 20 years. So there is also that elitism as well. But I think the messaging from the party has been about just the issues with dealing with trying to get things through and then feeling like people are just stupid and not understanding the metrics.
I want to piggyback off of this, but I want to separate it in a degree.
Go ahead.
One of the things that the Democrats absolutely do need to have a reckoning with is that they are the core of their party. The ones that write the checks and the ones that show up to vote consistently are people that are relatively rich, relatively well educated, but they empower a lot of people that don't agree with hardly anybody. I don't understand this coalition between people who literally want to have HOAs and people who want to burn the rich people's houses down, because that's what the coalition is right now, and there needs to be a reckoning with that. HOAs or basically people who would run HOAs are empowering leftists, is what we're looking at. You're talking about a lot of people who are in, CEO boardrooms.
Those are the people that the Democrats are hating right now. Mainstream.
Wait, what? Hold on. Go back.
No one really likes NIMBYs.
True.
Yeah, the problem is the core block now of the Democratic votership is NIMBYs. People who are going to be like, I don't want you to do this. Here's my property rights. Get fucked. This is the core of the party now. 1990s Republicans would not be alien with the Democratic Party of the day. They really wouldn't be.
Wait, what do you mean? NIMBYs are not
until the Democrats realize that the working class has abandoned them. Union workers are mostly voting Republican at this point. In the CNN issue poll that came out this week, 30 points off the working class voting for Democrats from 20 years ago to today, and it's evenly split now.
I don't think being rich makes you a NIMBY.
Right, so
it
generally does
property in a city that votes for their local policy. A NIMBY is the result of democracy.
Why don't you explain what a NIMBY is to people that don't know?
No, it means not in my backyard. A NIMBY is when people get together in a certain area and decide to vote on local policy to jurisdict how they want their neighborhoods to look, how they want different businesses to be handled, and just zoning laws for their particular area. A NIMBY is somebody that's using their ability to vote. That's all.
I mean, like there's like environmental NIMBYism. Like it's not just about like housing prices.
It's
Yeah,
not,
you're right, but most of them all go hand in hand. And if you want to look at like the number one group of people now that are going to be in the Democratic Party, like this is the people who write the checks. This is the people who are.
You have NIMBYism that is like rent control too. Like this is not, you know, you don't need to be rich to be a NIMBY.
Yeah, and I would say like another thing, like people might care about the value of their homes. Well, guess what? A lot of young people care about affordable housing. So like when the reason Kamala Harris was running partially on building 3 million new homes, because I do think that is a simple bold policy that you can do. That is, if you can message that this is going to decrease housing prices, an effective thing. Like I don't think I would expect Tyler to have the polling better than me, but I don't.
Hold on, let me hit this real quick. So this is the part where I don't have a problem with the policy and what you're talking about, Non-Fawn. I don't hear. What I'm getting at is that we were somehow getting into the esoterics of like what makes a NIMBY. That shouldn't be the conversation. The conversation here is that most people who are owning homes, most people who are actively able to afford like, these $250,000 homes when they hit the fucking lot, these are largely now Democrats. Like, we acknowledge this, right? Like, most of these people are Democrats.
It wouldn't surprise me if that were true, but also
I want to hold on. I just want to expand on that a little bit, though, because y'all bringing this up. But that's kind of interesting to me. Because it seems like there's a disconnect at the local and the national level, right, with this, right? So at the national level, here we hear about we need to fix homelessness, we need to do all this, and then at the local level, you see stuff like California, where they have some of the highest homelessness, or you have the homelessness, say here in San Antonio, right? And you'll see. Like San Antonio is a perfect example, right? You see San Antonio is a democratically ran city, and instead of like maybe building more homeless shelters or getting funding for it, what they've decided to do instead is build more hostile architecture. I think there's a push to ban camping, and you have HOAs taking it upon themselves to hire security and keep these things out, and they're all predominantly Democrat ran. And it seems like the people that are living here are like, oh, we don't want to deal with this. Let's get rid of these hobos. And then you see at the national level, it's like, oh, poo-poo on the local people for having to deal with these problems. We should do all these X, Y, Z programs, whatever. And it seems like, I think to the average person, they're going, well, this hobo's methed out and he just like stabbed somebody at this corner of my street. We should do something about this. We should get rid of him. And then at the national level, they're like, hey, no, you're a bad guy for thinking that. I think that's kind of pushing people away, this disconnect. Do y'all not see that to the same extent with this NIMBY situation?
I would bring that back a level. Like, I kind of get where, I completely get where he's at, but I want to try to left-wing whisper here if I can, because if there's anything that can still appeal, maybe it's there. What I'm generally looking at here is that if you're looking at people who have health insurance, if you're looking at people who, actually pay their property taxes and, can afford to go on vacation, almost all of these people, not all of them, but like a majority of them, are Democrats. And this is the core of the Democratic voter base for the last 30 years. It's people who went off to college. They, got their Pell Grants. They did all that shit that they needed to do. They became lawyers and teachers and public administrators. All these things.
That's not really that true.
How is it not? Like literally, the numbers say this.
I'm looking at the 2024 Pew polls right now, and it's like middle income 51% Republican, upper middle income 52% Republican, and then only when you get to the upper income do you get to 46% Republican. But it's like still 50-50 about. And when you go to housing, it's 51% of Republicans own the home compared to 51 to 45 split rather, and then it's like 64% of renters are Democrats. So it's I wouldn't say there's like a huge gap here. It's mainly the education where there's a big gap.
So I'm going to put it in this regard, and this may be a little bit of a weird argument, but I think Tyler can back me up here, is that the education and the money trends that we're seeing are the things that are important here versus like where we're at exactly right now. Because the trend line has been progressively going where if you're now a person who makes less than $60,000 a year, you're probably going to be a Republican. Like that's where the trend line is going. If you have a college degree, this is
I
the
don't know if that's
most.
true. I think at the very top, that you're getting more Democrats for sure. But in the middle strata, I don't know if it's true that there's like this trend one way or the other.
So Scott Rasmussen did a poll, I think in 2023, where he went through and defined what elites were. And this is people making X amount of money with X, Y amount of education and living in Z areas, usually highly populated cities. And he went through and assessed their political motives versus the general public. And these people were extremely far to the left. Now, going back to my original point that you said wasn't happening, I linked in the chat a bunch of instances of Joe Biden and the Democrats voting on a bunch of transgender policy. So it's definitely a mainstream thing. It's not just a bunch of fringe activist groups. This is something that is rejected by the public in some polls as much as 78 to 19.
It being about
So number one
issues makes it extreme.
Right. So
it's
like,
not real.
one of the things you linked is like
nobody believes it.
One of the things you linked is just Biden.
Okay, well, I mean, that's the point. Is you're telling
Like,
78%
let's talk about
of
something we
people
agree on
think
rather
this
than
is
like
bullshit. No,
like,
this is the problem.
Culture
with the
war is not the
Democratic
only
Party.
thing where the Democrats
This
are
isn't
failing.
the culture war. The culture war is before it moves into politics. This is in politics now. These are legislative bills being passed in Congress. This isn't culture war.
Well, okay, I'm
That's
saying let's talk about a
mislabeling.
culture issue that we like agree on the
Why,
factual
though?
matter.
I
of
don't
it.
agree with your guys' premise. I think that unions and working class voters are fleeing the Democratic Party, and I cited a poll to that. And
Well, I
think
agree
the
with
Democratic
that.
so-
Party has a credibility issue, and it's based around shit
I
like
also
this,
agree with that.
where they're pushing at 78% of people disagree that if a man dresses as a woman, he is now a woman and should be allowed into women's sports, locker rooms, and bathrooms. And if
I mean,
that's the case, and the
that's not
party's
saying
saying
that they don't
you
believe
just
that
don't know what
transgender
you're
people are
talking
real.
about,
hold
transgender
on.
people are real and you're dumb, that's how you tell people, don't vote for me.
Well,
Okay,
hold on. I
so-
think that to Tyler's point, I think let me try to illustrate it a little bit. Like tone it, like I think frame it what more people would probably say is I think it's less they deny trans people are real, and it's more of shit like I just shared a thing in the art from the Western Journal, not the most reputable, but I looked it up earlier and confirmed this did happen. But they have a trans softball player, for example, that's playing in the state championships in Minnesota right now, and basically they're pitching perfect games almost every time, and it's like, hey. This is clearly unfair. No woman has ever done this in history. When you see women go into men's like transition and go in there, it's not fair. And then when people say, "Hey, we made women's sports to be a protected class," and now it doesn't seem like they're being protected. They turn around and go, "You're a bigot." I do see that somewhat like turns off the average person. Do you disagree? Those that disagree. I think I cut off non-fun, but yeah, y'all can both answer. Go ahead, non-fun.
Right.
then-
So I think when you get to like the niche issues, like with transgender people in sports, I do feel like there are cases where essentially the Democrats are kind of overly lenient to like the ultra progressive side of the party, which a lot of these people are not voting for Kamala Harris anyway. Like I don't know why we sometimes like listen to them. But I will say, like, when Tyler brings up things like this, like what he linked, like Biden nominating a transgender person for his cabinet, and Biden signing whatever. I think my understanding of this bill, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Tyler, this bill basically just made trans people a protected class, right? Like it just said you can't discriminate. Yeah, so like when you have these kind of like milquetoast things, one, I'm not convinced that most
Yeah, I definitely don't
like
disagree with that. By the way.
yeah, I'm not convinced that most Americans are really turned off by like nominating a transgender person, right? I do think their bigger issues are like things like trans women in sports, which Biden
Or in
milk
bathrooms, yeah.
toast legislation to you.
To
I-
say that
and-
being transgender is a
That's what
protected class.
protected class is. Yes, it's a
in the
civil
sense
right.
of it's not what progressives
where-
want. Yeah, I mean,
That's
and not
what
milk
you're
toast
looking
isn't
at.
it's not important. I agree it's an important thing to do, and we should do this. But I don't think it's a, or I don't know if you agree with that actually. But I don't think it like there's a reason progressives said that Biden was like too moderate on trans issues, right? Like this is not a super far left ultra progressive thing. This is just like, hey, like maybe you shouldn't be able to fire someone just because they're trans.
Would you say that? What was the
Can
vice president?
we not make it about trans
cannot
issues?
hear
Well,
you.
we
That's-
clearly
that's
just don't
just
agree.
one of my many.
What was the
You just
what was
disagree.
the vice
Hey, I got
president
more. I got 10
candidate
more.
for them said? Okay, go ahead, Tyler.
I'm just saying, like, this is the issue you guys disagreed on, where it's the whole party. I've linked legislation where the entire party voted for two separate bills, one of them allowing men into women's sports, and 78% of the country disagrees. And all we have is, no, you're wrong, and also a bigot as a response to it.
I
Like, this
didn't
is
call
not
you
a
bigot.
protected
No.
class. This is a people with mental
I
disabilities.
don't think you're a
that
bigot
we're
for thinking
telling
that
to
trans people aren't
embrace
real.
it. I'm just saying. I'm not saying you.
Well, okay, so what about like in
the
between that
strategy.
though?
We have more
Ivory?
issues. We have
What do
all
you?
things
Hold
like
on. What do you? So hold on, Tom. We'll come right back to you. Let me just engage real quick what he just said. What about in between there? Like, you just brought up like, oh, the trans people aren't real. Like, what about in the scenario I just described? Like, well, I'm like, okay, you're trans. I don't care. That's cool. I don't give a shit. Like, if you want to do whatever you want to do, I don't care if you're not like a trans person, right? I'm pretty, I guess, socially liberal by some people's standards. I think it's more individual liberty based. But when I hear this, I don't care if you're trans, but I do care if, say, like, I have a daughter and she's playing on a softball team and now she's cost a scholarship because they went up against somebody that's genetically male who has a physical advantage over them. Like,
Yeah,
this person might
that's not
actually
even a
be
place
trans.
where I like would disagree without like knowing the exact situation.
Right. So like, but like, even if I'm acknowledging that they're real, right? Like, you're saying, do you not see how this could be an issue to like a average Joe voter that turns them off, or no?
Sure,
Like, what do you?
Well, I think it
understand
is
how
an
this can be
issue.
but this is not the only. This is not the only reason.
No, it's
It's
not.
not even like the
Yeah, we'll come back to
top 20 reasons why people dislike Democrats.
Well,
okay, maybe it is
well-
top 20, but I was more trying to say it's not 5% of the reason.
Well, I mean, the poll. I mean, what was that poll that came out? I'm not the polling guy here, but they came out and said, the biggest ad was the ones like, I'm not for they're for they them. That was the one that like seemed like it rigged the election basically one way or the other. Do you not think it's a major issue if that's like the polling is indicating that, or do you just think polls are bullshit?
On the margin, it's a marginal issue, right? It gets voters, it gets a lot of voters, swing voters, to move one way or the other. But the reason why they're swing voters in the first place is because Democrats are not delivering on good policy. And it's not because the Democrats don't have good ideas. According to Democrats, it's not because they don't have good ideas. It's because activist groups get in the way, or people that don't understand the issues get in the way, and they get in the way with frivolous lawsuits. At least on the abundance side, and then on the like Lena Khan, Elizabeth Warren side, it's the big corporations are getting in the way. So someone is getting in the way of these good policies that, we've done all the math, we've done all the science, and we understand how we're going to make the economy better. We understand how we're going to fix housing. But then corporations, from Lena Khan's perspective and from Elizabeth Warren's perspective, they're making it harder to build housing. And then from Ezra Klein, it's like, well, it's actually all these activist groups. And so neither of those messages, I think, are fully correct. So, but that's where I think like the bulk of the issue here is, it's not this marginal culture issue. Although I think it is important, like 5% is still big, but it's just, I think we can talk about things that we actually agree on, like the foundations, the facts, the underlying facts, and that would be a more productive discussion.
This exit poll showed that 70% of voters indicated transgender issues were an important factor in deciding their vote. I linked it in the chat.
Sure, like because like they get to this point where it's like, I'm not sure who's better, which as a Democrat I think is ridiculous, but that's just how it is. And then it's like, okay, this is going to push me over the edge. Like, that makes sense.
I mean, you are right to a degree with your political capital assessment. If the Democrats were pushing out good policy, and the idea of California building houses is almost laughable because they can't even build their own train system, when Florida did it privately in a couple of years with way less money. And in this housing issue, you can't build houses in a Democratic state unless it goes through XYZ climate regulation, and then there's also public transport to it, and all these other extra things that are preventing them from building, as Ezra Klein said in his book.
I mean, I don't disagree with that part, right? Like,
sucks, by the way.
I don't disagree with that part. That's what I mentioned in my opening. Democrats need to get better at governing. We should. I basically quoted Abundance because Ezra literally says this. Like, Democrats should be able to point to California and say, this is what we're going to make the nation look like. But we can't really do that because there's so many fucking homeless people in California. Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's it. That's another issue, by the way, with the Electoral College, is that, and the House, I guess, we're gonna have during apportionment, California's gonna lose seats and Texas is gonna gain seats, and I think that is part of the reason why, abundance is abundance is in large part the solution. But look, I do wanna. I do want to briefly mention I was looking for this study because I didn't save it while I was we were talking about this earlier. Tyler keeps mentioning, unions and everyone, and people keep voting for the Republicans, and or at least voted for the Republicans in this cycle. And I don't disagree with that, but I think in large part, I think a lot of people just vote essentially based on how they felt like the economy was doing. So I think a large number of those unions were just like, or union members just simply did not like the 20% cumulative inflation that happened and said, I'm going to vote for the, other guy. And I think Trump's, populist messaging, him saying, "Oh, I'm going to bring all these good union jobs back," even if that's not true, that type of simple, bold policy, I'm going to go in there, wreck everything with these tariffs, and bring all your jobs back. I think that is effective messaging, and I also think, in large part, the study I was looking for, a big reason why we see more educated people voting for Democrats nowadays is that Democrats generally favor, redistributive policies. So they want to have a tax and transfer system, whereas less educated people prefer pre-distributive policy. So they prefer things like minimum wages, like federal job guarantees that are, instead of redistribution, pre-distributive. And I think that is a big reason why we see more educated people vote for the Democrats now.
Sorry.
That last part was really interesting, but I have to think about it to dissect it. What I want to hit on, at least to a degree, is that this is where I've had a lot of problems with the Democrats as a person, because I remember when I was young how the Democrats were supposed to be the party of tariffs. They were supposed to be the party of unions, and then whenever Trump came along, people that I knew that were lifelong Democrats started voting for Republicans, and it's only gotten worse since then for the Democrats. Is that, I'm from the Midwest, but I'm also in the trade sector. All these folks, if they were Democrats, they're not now, is largely the trend that we're seeing here. And it's, I don't know why y'all sold out. I don't get it. Like, Democrats were supposed to be pro-tariff, and you didn't fucking do it.
Wait.
And then Trump had to fucking push it out, and now all of a sudden everyone's leaving you. It's fucking rocket science, I guess.
I don't understand how you're connecting tariffs to Trump's victory and people becoming more Republican after he came on.
This is what the working classes wanted forever, and they've been screaming it at you, and you didn't fucking listen. In fact, you sold out. The Democratic Party sold out the working class. 1,000.
Like I said, I think the big thing is just the messaging, right? It's Trump, going in there and saying, I'm unhappy with the status quo too. I'm going to wreck everything. I'm going to be anti-establishment. And I'm also going to, do these tariffs and, bring your jobs back or whatever. Now, obviously, I think that's all basically bullshit. I mean, he is anti-establishment, but I think the actual effects of the policy are not going to be good. But that type of simple, bold messaging, I think, is really effective, and voters really like that, unfortunately.
I'll split with you here.
How much do you think the tariffs affected thing, like not doing tariffs or whatever, or doing free trade?
Ending free trade writ large, regardless of how much there was in substance, was huge. Because I think there's a lot of Americans that
no.
It's not about the trade deficit.
How much tariffs are you wanting here?
That's up to the average person. As far as me, I have a really crazy foreign policy, but it's basically, if you believe in authoritarians are us, you get locked out of the World Trade Organization. Like, we don't trade with you. Get fucked. So if you're Iran, if you're China, if you're Russia, if you believe in this fucking authoritarian shit, get lost. That's my foreign policy.
You think that's something you're going to sell to the average voter?
Oh, yeah. I think this is actually something that you can get the West to actually congeal
You'd
on.
immediately lose because everything would be more expensive.
Yeah, that's the general long part, that's the short order thing, and I don't disagree with that. The question is that do Americans have bigger paychecks?
I don't think people give a shit about authoritarianism.
This idea that everything's going to be more expensive.
Oh yeah, this is again, let's follow the conversation here. This is what I would want. If you just want to go back to the tariffs and why that's popular, is that the average American thinks that
yes, unions love
why?
Because they don't lose their fucking jobs with them.
They've aligned with this since the late 1800s.
How much tariffs do you think would protect, how many jobs?
We don't have that exact number. We have estimates, but what it does is prevent jobs.
Where are you getting these estimates? Where are you getting these numbers?
Non-Farm brought one up in our panel yesterday that free trade has potentially gotten rid of 2.4, I think you said, million.
The study, so that's the... That's the highest estimate by the economist who literally first talked about the China shock, and it uses controversial econometrics. So that study found that there were could have been 2.4 million jobs in the manufacturing sector lost due to trade. Now, obviously, Tyler,
What is
you're
the
ignoring
percentage of
that. Guess
Me-
what?
let me-
That's a little less than 40%, right? Right. So that and only in the manufacturing sector. Obviously, Tyler is ignoring the part where guess what? Trade costs jobs in some sectors, but creates jobs in other sectors,
I don't
which is
hold on,
irrelevant. Which is irrelevant.
Manufacturing jobs for jobs that pay 40%.
Hold on. Okay, we're not doing the tariff debate again. That we've done that about 15 times. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to Kel here. Tell us who you are, what you do, and then also give us a brief intro. Why are the Dems in shambles, and how can they fix their party? Real quick thoughts, and then I'm going to ask you a question. Go ahead.
Okay, what's up? I'm Kinetic Kel. Sorry, I'm fashionably late. First of all, I know I joined late, but I'm gonna say that starting with a not
Wait,
starting, but
do you guys hear
I
that
hopped in
echo
right when you were
too?
late. Well,
Or
in
is
my
it
personal opinion, this
me
is just how
glitching
I
out?
would want it. That's not a great way to talk about politics, is it? I don't think the Dems are in shambles. I'm like moderate left. I think we're under reconstruction, and I think that it's a lot of the fucking you're either with us or against us mentality. That does it. Am I frozen or are you guys?
That's actually a perfect segue into what I want to talk about. You and I have talked several times about how you have like lost friends over if you don't agree with my specific point of view, they'll like not come for you versus Republicans will just be like you're an idiot, you're a retard, and then just move on and like hey, you want a beer kind of thing. And how like even within your own friend group you've been like labeled I'm like the far right person, then you like meet conservatives like I'm not right at all. And so like do you think that this is a problem like for the masses of Democrats where people are like ostracized because of a belief that's like opposing to like a mainstream one or even like a fringe one, like a real progressive one? Do you think this is something that's turning people away from the Democratic Party?
Yeah, 100%. I think that like for any party, right? You're not gonna have a consensus for it's 50% of the population, right? So obviously there's gonna be things that you're that's why I consider myself a moderate, just like on little tiny minor things. As far as like I'm a capitalist. What can I say? I like our ability to make money. There's other things that I'm like more socially left on, but in general, if you don't have like a party consensus, like this might not be my favorite thing about this candidate, but you know what? I know that it's like for the greater good that we get them into office rather than the opposing party. Of course, and also like the fucking labeling people like Nazis because they have like differing political opinions on foreign affairs.
Yeah, I mean, Tiberius, you touched on this, and then you kind of threw me for a loop, and you said, "Oh, it's the arrogance." Then you're like, "I'm an elitist." I don't know how those mesh, but I feel like that's that one kind of threw me for a loop. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting that Kel's saying almost the same thing. It's the arrogance. If you disagree, you're Nazi. What do y'all think? Y'all think this is a true statement here? You think it's a problem across the board, or is it just something the conservatives and I guess the weak left liberals are making up?
I mean, it's definitely true. It's just overstated as to how big of an issue this is.
Do y'all feel the rest of y'all?
So
I think it's understated.
Bro, we let Trump get back into office over Kamala because people freaking I think we've lost the greater picture for sure. That's crazy. What's your counter?
You're saying Democrats lost the greater picture?
Well, I'm saying like specifically these cultural issues and the purity testing. Like this is an issue that's happening on the left. It's mainly happening in online spaces that are not really actually involved in day-to-day governing, so like. These are marginal issues that people see that swing their vote one way or the other, but the thing that is like earning their support, which is implementation of good policy, like that's where we're not really delivering as the left. And so like, but that has nothing to do with purity testing.
That's true though, but the bad policy comes from purity testing. The bad policy was the border. The number one issue voters voted on, according to 2 of the 3 major exit polls, was the border, was the immigration crisis, was asylum fraud that Joe Biden willingly opened up. And then 9 months before the election, the Senate passed a bill that would undo some of the things that Biden willingly opened up in February 2021 with executive order. He basically said, this Trump policy is bad, let's get rid of it.
I think it's a stretch to say that policy happened because of purity testing.
It did.
Sorry,
yes, it did.
Well, I mean,
opening up the border
like,
to people that have given past their legal
making
immigration.
Social Security solvent, like that's a probably a big reason why Biden was super happy about that policy. like
cool, but
this,
at the
this
end of the day,
long-term
he
vision of
allowed
getting as
for
many people into
abuse.
the country as possible.
He allowed for people to illegally abuse the asylum system and also illegally abuse his parole authority and also illegally implemented.
Okay, but the thing is, if Biden
Biden
snapped his fingers and could change immigration law, I think he would have made all of that legal.
Immigration law isn't something that needs to be changed. When you pass immigration law, you're actually taking powers away from the
Wait.
No.
He said the thing.
If Democrats had full control of the government, we would make all of these asylum seekers legal. Like
That's the rub. He said the thing. That's actually the rub. Is that like you're. Unironically, it's like, oh, if Biden could have done it, he would have just made him legal. And that's the part where, like, the American people have found you lacking. They're like, no, get fucked.
This is what the Democrats want. They want a bunch.
No, the majority of Democrats actually don't even want this. Like, actually.
If you guys people here, you open up how many people
what are you
bring in
sourcing
legally.
on that?
You don't abuse.
They don't want
asylum.
illegal immigration. But if you
yes, they do.
If no one could say that it was illegal, the majority of Democrats would be in support of people coming in and working hard.
Democrats
hold on.
illegal
I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example, and you tell me if you think this is too far. Okay, so this happened to me last week. I know I'm a conservative, so speak with grace. So my dad, my biological father, is an actual illegal alien. Okay, right? Like this guy, 3-time felon, terrible fucking person. Luckily, I've adopted, great family. But, right, so actually legally, if anybody gets the right to say illegal alien, I get it, right? Like that'd be like a white, a black guy using the N-word, right? Okay, cool. I was talking to somebody in their chat, and I said the words illegal alien, and I told them that my cattle had been killed, and we were just talking, and then I got banned, and they got reason for it was racism, and then I got unbanned, and we started talking further, and the guy said it was internalized racism against Hispanics, and I was like, what race are you? And the guy's like, well, I'm white. I'm like, that'd be like a white man telling a black man he can't use the N-word because that's internalized racism. And he's like, well, we don't want your kind around here, and banned me. I'm like, this seems like a purity testing.
Wait,
when it's all the way down to this. So here, I'll give you an example. So whenever we're to the point that in random chats, if someone that's actually has the background of like, oh, this guy is his father's a illegal alien, this guy's actually African American, he used the N-word, they're like, hey, check this out. We're gonna sit here and ban you. We're gonna say that's internalized racism because you don't share our political belief. That is literally purity testing at so many levels that it's harming the average voter. Do you think someone that has the interaction wants to go and vote for Democrats that like at the national or the general level or the local level, if that's the interaction with people that are just nominally Democrats?
I mean, this is happening in online spaces, right? Like,
your friend needs pulled
purity
in.
testing is absolutely happening in online spaces, but I don't like that's not what's driving this policy, and it's not what's pushing Biden to sign these laws to provide to like get illegal aliens to allow them to abuse the asylum system, right? Like when I'm saying I support that, I'm not saying that in terms of like trying to reach across the aisle to conservatives. Like I understand that would be absolutely horrifying to conservatives, and that like for whatever good econometrics it brings, the cultural issues with that are significant, and I actually do care about that. But what I'm saying is, if everyone was a Democrat, right, like, and if everyone was a liberal, in terms of like the emotional or empathy circles, that Democrats would love to. The issue that Democrats have, essentially, the average Democrat, the voting Democrat, is that they are labeled as illegal immigrants, and they don't like illegal things.
The average Democrat isn't a voting Democrat anymore. Just saying.
Sure, whatever. But what I'm trying to say is the issue that people that are being polled about this are having is that they're labeled as illegal immigrants, not that they are, not that they're from whatever place.
Well, do you hold on, that seems like kind of a crazy thing to say. You're telling the average person they can't use the legal term, and that's racist?
No, I'm saying I'm saying that's they dislike, like, when you ask them, do you think that the level of illegal immigration in the country is a good or bad thing? Because you said that this is illegal, like correctly, this is illegal, they're going to say, I don't support that, because people won't support illegal things. But if it was magically legal, they would support it. It's not because it's not about.
Let me split hairs here, because I know where Tyler's going to go, and it's framing. Like, so the Republicans are trying to frame the Democrats as like pro illegal immigration. The part where I actually agree with our friend here is that no, Democrats actually want a shitload of legal immigration. And that's where I think Republicans can just say, no, we actually have the more popular opinion. Like, this 2 million people a year is just not feasible. Like, Americans feel too much economic pressure to believe that that's a good thing.
No, like, this is not true. Like, the we are massively benefiting from all of this immigration.
Yeah, the problem is
economically.
people don't believe you. Just straight up, they don't
Sure,
believe
but
you.
Like you
Maybe
can't.
that's
You
why we
can't
don't do
disentangle
politics based
this.
on emotions. Like, oh, I feel like 2 million too many. Like,
That's great, but the
you know-
people who have emotions vote, and they're
If
telling
you
you to
let-
fuck off.
If we let all the rapists out of prison, we would have more people working too. So why don't we do that? Because we're just keeping them there based
the
on a
vast
vote.
majority
Oh
of these
my God.
people are committing fewer
Right.
crimes than native-born Americans.
If they're here illegally, they
Okay, well,
commit a
that's a
crime
terrible
every
point.
single day.
Wow,
Okay.
great argument, Tyler.
No,
Oh,
they
hold
don't.
on, Tyler.
The problem
Obviously,
is that they're
obviously.
are not here legally. That is the problem.
Yes, they're not here legally. They're working illegally.
If
they're
they
using
were
fake
here
Social
legally, there would be
Security.
no problem for Democrats. That's
Yes,
what I'm
you're
saying.
right. If they
No,
didn't
there
break
still
the
would
law,
be.
then there would be no
would be
problem.
the
You're right, but they're
problem?
breaking the law. That's the
No,
thing.
that-
This party is pro-illegal immigration.
Oh my
No,
Sanctuary
they're
cities.
pro-immigration. It's just that we know that it's
No,
impossible
so-
to actually change the law, so we do it. We do this.
Come on, I listened to you
political
guys all
maneuver.
talk. I was told I get to go next. Pro-illegal immigration policy is voting,
No.
the entire party voting to keep illegal immigrants here when they commit crimes as bad as drunk driving. Pro-illegal immigration is having sanctuary cities
Hang on.
where you stop people from getting deported when they're here
if you
illegally.
condone someone being a vigilante against a rapist, are you now pro-murder?
No, you're
Okay, how do
pro-vigilante
you feel about
though.
the Houthis?
Okay, so
Oh,
if
oh
I'm
my
saying
God.
I'm pro people
They're a
coming
terrorist
in to be good citizens, right? And who want to be here and not
fucking
commit
kill
crime, and
me.
who statistically commit crime way less and work harder and work for less. They work for less money
I looked at
than the
those
average
statistics.
American.
They don't exist. You're
Okay,
looking-
hold on, Tyler.
You sprung my trap card. So you're advocating for the same thing Big Cotton did in your pro-slavery ivory fold. Yeah, that's the same argument. They work for less. Slaves work for less. We can pay them less. We can produce our food better, and we can keep these big corporations in business over mom and pop places. That's the exact same argument that the Democrats in the South made for Big Cotton. Do you disagree with those statements? Because you just made those arguments.
Because they're here of their own free will.
Yeah.
That's
No,
the
no, no,
that's
no.
the distinction.
No, hold on. That is
You're making a
obviously
terrible argument
an
for it.
important distinction is the voluntary transaction
we're
part.
gonna-
So
we're
look,
gonna-
so
This is like a very important thing.
yeah, okay. So I have a few things. Obviously, the voluntary
Hold on.
thing is the relevant factor there, right? Like these immigrants are coming here to work because America affords them an opportunity that they would not have in their own home country. That's why they voluntarily choose to come here. But look, I obviously think it's unfair to say the Democrats are like actually pro illegal immigration. Even sanctuary cities, I don't think it makes you pro illegal immigration. I just think it means that you're empathetic enough to illegal immigrants that you say even if you commit a crime or whatever, we may not necessarily want to cooperate.
Hold on, Kel. I'm
Oh,
gonna give
dear
you one
God.
second. Todd. If I make my house a sanctuary house and I decide to put secret missiles in my house, is that now? Do you think that doesn't say I'm pro gun?
It might make you pro gun, but the relevant thing is I think the people.
that's
So
what I
if you
thought.
support if you support sanctuary cities, I don't think it
Wait,
means
no,
you want
are
more
you pro
people
legal
crossing.
gun, Gibbs? Are you pro legal
Yeah.
gun?
I'm pro. I mean, I don't think there
But
should
it
be
doesn't make
illegal
you pro
guns.
illegal gun if you
Yeah, I mean, there
if you
should be no
declare
illegal
that
guns.
your house
Right.
is a
Yeah, but
like let's say
that's my
let's say
point.
that-
That's my point right there. You're making my point for me.
No, but let's say-
If
let's
I
say-
was
look,
to say,
so when I
if
think
I wanted
pro-
to have a nuke in my house, that would be pro any gun, although it'd be illegal, right? That would be me breaking the law and
Well,
having.
sure, but now let's say the Second Amendment doesn't exist, where you don't have a right to own that gun, right? And now
then
you have none of the
Then we'll
none of
find
the guns
another
you own.
revolution.
Sure, but are you
fuck's
pro
sake.
illegal gun?
Well, yeah, at
It's
that point, I'd be
terrible.
pro revolution.
Why?
Okay,
We had
that
good things,
hypothetical is
Gib.
garbage.
And you fucked it
Okay,
up.
okay,
all right?
hold on. When I hear pro illegal immigration, I think like you actually like legitimately want people coming over the border illegally. I don't think that's what's implied by sanctuary cities. I think it just means that you think deportations are harmful enough such that if illegal immigrants are living in your county, you don't think it's always justified to automatically deport them anytime that they have an interaction with law enforcement. I think that's what that says. I don't think it means you're pro illegal immigration. And secondly, like Tyler, listen, I'm sure one day we can set up a bigger, longer border debate, but my understanding, is that presidents may have some control on the margin of like how high the standard is for asylum processes or whatever. But at the end of the day, the way the law is written, if someone crosses the border illegally, they have a right to claim asylum, even if it's not at a port of entry, even if they do it illegally, even if they go through other countries. They have a right to claim asylum, and I understand that there are like credible fear standards and other standards that you can apply, and I think the president does have control of that. But also, I would say my understanding right now is that people who cross the border illegally, or people who cross the border not at a port of entry, are not being, their asylum claims are not being processed, which is a violation of the asylum law. I believe that's my understanding of things. Maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but.
Let's go to Kel, because I don't want to go dive down that rabbit hole about asylum law. Go to Kel. Go ahead. Thoughts?
Okay, literally, I'm like the only other people, and I'm center left. Okay, I rarely talk about my political affiliations because the thing that we were talking about as far as like polarization, you literally like polarize whether if you like lean one way. But everyone making arguments on the left, I'm like, come on, there is an argument to be made here, but we gotta lose the word empathetic because that can't count like politics. Like, if you do anything like around sales or anything, like there's business things. It's like, okay, obviously the people on the right are gonna think it's empathetic to protect their own and like, you know what I mean, keep America safe, and then like empathetic. It's all like relative, you know what I mean? But that's like a dog shit argument. That's my argument.
Thoughts? Tiberius, you were
I'd like to jump in real quick and just kind
of...
of...
Go ahead.
Yeah, so it's not pro-illegal immigration to set up an incentive system for illegal people to come here, live here, work here, get different aid here, vote in some cities, and prevent them from getting deported. That's not pro-illegal immigration.
Because I think that it shouldn't have been illegal in the first place that they were illegally here.
But it is.
We know that.
It is. And they are here illegally.
What I'm
That's
saying,
the law.
let's say the Second Amendment didn't exist. Like, is it a good thing? Is it morally virtuous to be pro illegal gun if the Second Amendment doesn't exist? Okay, so why can't it be morally virtuous for a Democrat to say I am pro this illegal immigration because I don't think this immigration should be illegal?
Well, okay, so just to flip that on its head real quick.
From the resources from our country.
Just to be like flip that, right? So like the Texas Republican Party's official stance is like, hey, become a nation, right? Because we think that's becoming part of that's because the gun laws, right? But however, outside of Texas, do you think the Republican Party would benefit from, hey, Gibbs is in charge, he's pushing like, hey, everybody should be able to own a nuke, like pro like illegal? No, I don't think that would get them voted in. I think that would be like almost an extremist stance nationally. And so what you're arguing seems to be like, hey, why shouldn't Dems do this? And I think the argument is if you're going towards this route, you're going more progressive and you're going away from the middle and it's hurting people. Do you disagree with that, Ivory Fool?
Well, so I acknowledge that this kind of open borders stance is extremely unpopular amongst Republicans, and I'm not arguing that Republicans should understand and agree with this. What I'm trying to say is, imagine that I'm a Democrat and I have a different politics from you. Right? Yeah. Like, so I'm a Democrat. I have different politics than you. Like, you have to acknowledge that I think it's that it's like it makes sense for me to think it's morally virtuous to be pro illegal immigration, I guess. Like the same way that you would be the same way that I would disagree about like being pro illegal gun. Right? Or that I wouldn't share your like the salience of that point. Because I just don't want to care about guns.
Go ahead, Tiberius. I know Tiberius and Tyler want to get on it. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I don't like the immigration conversation because I think people are focused on the wrong part. It largely goes to legality for some reason, and when it comes down to it, I don't think anyone actually gives a shit. If the Republicans had cared about the legality of asylum laws, they would have nuked the 67 Kyoto Protocol for it, and we wouldn't even have to deal with this problem. And Republicans won't even fucking talk about it. So Republicans can shove off with that shit, and Democrats just need to say it as openly as they want to.
How would they have done that?
Wait a minute, hold on. Republicans have been talking about getting rid of that for a while. You know that, right?
I have not heard a single declaration from the Republican Party saying we're going to do that.
This is why I know you're a Democrat. You know, anyway,
Tyler, when did they do it?
The Republican Party is not anti-asylum. They're anti the changes Obama did to asylum in 2009 when he issued that DHS memo that opened up credible fear based off of Clinton's treaty based on reasonable or torture and all that fun stuff. So what they did was open up the asylum law in 2009, and we saw the credible fear go from being used 5% to being used, I think, up to 60% of asylum claims. and I want to say it's 80 or 70 something percent of people that use the credible fear clause are shown to not be using it in a way that would get them in.
Yes,
Most of them are
because
abusing
it was
to
by
work.
design. Like this
Hold on.
is intentional. This is intentional. That
Yeah.
we just want people here. We don't really care if they actually are escaping some
I get that.
prejudice.
You
So
don't
hold
know
on.
about
So
the
this is
laws.
the rub for me. Like this is what I was trying to get at. What actually matters to me is practicality. My general stance here is that the Republican Party is just simply saying we want less or we want less immigration writ large. The Democrats are saying that they want more. And when it comes down to it, I think if you put this up on a national ballot, yeah, the Republicans are going to sweep with this fucking issue.
That's not like, again, you can't know that for sure because the national polls will say
Are
do
loaded.
you support illegal immigration?
Right.
Because that
Like
is
a
the way
lot
that
of that's
Democrats
loaded.
vote.
I'm not going to act like the polls aren't loaded to some degree, but Tyler's probably got a couple that's just like, hey, do you support more immigration or less? And I guarantee it's going to say, no, I want less immigration than what we have
We'll
now.
just go to
Well,
Tyler.
That's why econometrics is better than the median voter. Okay, but anyway.
Most people want more immigration legally. When you allow asylees in here, they don't go through the processes that an actual immigrant or a visa holder goes through. They skip all those because we're offering them a safe haven that's supposed to be temporary. After a year, they can apply for citizenship, and then they have to go through that scrutiny. But if they never apply for citizenship, they ignore all those scrutiny tests to see if they're actually good people to bring into our country. So when we bring in asylees, they're skipping all the vetting. The UK saw the same problem.
This is by design. This the point I'm
Yes,
trying to
I
say.
know
This
it's
is
by design. I get
Yes,
that, and the
but
design
Democrats
is
like this.
illegal.
This is good.
It's illegal. It breaks the laws and it ignores the
Yes.
majority of voters.
Yes.
Yes, I get it's by
Because we
design.
think the law
I'm
is
telling you how
unjust.
dumb it is.
We think the law is unjust and unbeneficial to everyone.
It's bad. It's bad
law-
policy.
the law-
All you have to do is open up the visa numbers. Now, Antoine and I have had this conversation. We agree.
We
If you
can't
double-
do that
yes,
because
you can.
Republicans don't want to, and
They
we
do.
have
hold on.
Republicans
The majority
have
of
the
them
Yeah,
power.
do.
finish out. Tyler, finish out. We're gonna go to Kel. Go
Trump
ahead.
tried to do it, and Democrats voted it down. Trump tried to give amnesty to 2.4 million people here illegally, and Democrats
No
voted
way.
it down because they didn't want to
There's
give.
no way that's true, but-
Actually, it is true. It is the
policy every day. This is policy.
2.4. Isn't that like the total number?
No, that's fine. That's 20%.
It was the Trump. It was the Trump. I had, bro. I used to have it in my
was
favorites
border-
because
it
it
was
came up so
border
long.
funding
But yeah,
for
it was the
asylum.
border bill for Trump that he wanted with fucking. It was the Langston bill, I think, maybe, or I could be wrong, but I have it somewhere.
I'll find it. I'll
Yeah.
find it if you need.
Go ahead, Kel. You were saying something.
Okay. I'm literally we're not gonna like deviate the conversation back to this because I'm like there's literally 6 conversations that everything fucking goes back to and about like polarization on social media, but it kind of is, right? Like, okay, as far as like okay, like remember the Obama things like at the border camps when they're putting kids in cages, like, and that was under a Democratic Party, right? I think most people don't want mass deportation. They also don't want mass like lax immigration laws. I think most people would consider themselves a moderate on massive shit like this, because yeah, we agree that like fucking foreign labor, all this good stuff, if you live in a border town especially, I feel like you can acknowledge that immigrants are probably going to be like a net benefit to your city, to your economy, to your whatever the fuck. But also I think everyone understands that we can't just fucking take on everyone's, you know, people that don't want to live in their country anymore, like stipulations. You know what I'm saying? I feel like most people are moderate, and
Well, I kind of want to come back.
most people would think that way. Yeah.
I want to come back to something else you said with the social media. I think that, Fool, you've kind of pushed back against this quite a bit, saying it's not the political actors. I think that might be incorrect a little bit. Do you imagine that someone that's voted Democrat their whole life, bought a Tesla back in the day because they were pro, like, environmental reasons, and now their Tesla's being vandalized? Do you think they're going to vote Democrat the next time? I would say a Tesla owner is probably like somebody that would vote.
Maybe not, but again, the point that I'm making is like the reason why people are even swing voters in the first place. Because like if you're a solid Dem, like vandalism is not going to change your political position. But if you're a swing voter and something like that would change your position, like the only reason why you're a swing voter in the first place is because like it's not clear that Democratic leadership is better than Republican leadership, and it's actually true that it's not necessarily better because like we don't have the results to show for it. But it's like it. Because, you know, I think the ideas are better, but we haven't been able to execute on them for a myriad of reasons. But, like, that's the issues that we're unable to execute on them.
There's no, like, consensus on the left at all. Like, bro, Hassan is the biggest fucking political streamer around right now. Like, dude, there is no consensus. There's no, oh, we haven't had the chance to push our ideas far enough. It's that every single party, 1, has different ideas, 2, has incredible, like, fractions within them that are just never going to agree on anything. Like, they're talked about, like, when I first jumped in the conversation, there's people that I've, like, because I'm not 100% pro-Palestine, because I'm like open to the nuances of the conversation, like really think that I'm just like brainwashed and fucking like slop tubered or whatever. It's like people don't engage with things as critically as they used to, I feel like.
I mean, that's the problem. Godfather, go ahead.
I like if you're telling me like there's purity testing on like the hardcore pro-Palestinian left, it's like, yeah, I agree with you, but I mean I really don't think I think these are mostly online spaces. Like you mentioned Hassan, like I don't know like how many people in Hassan's audience are even old enough to vote. Like all of them are anti-electoral anyway. They don't want to vote for Kamala Harris, and like I do think I mean it's a ContraPoints meme. These types of people don't actually want power; they just want to endlessly critique power. I'm not sure what can be done to.
And Harris, but I still like went out and voted. But a lot of people were like, "Oh yeah, you're a bad Democrat if you go out and vote for Kamala because of A, B, C, D, F." I'm saying that I fucking like everything, and yeah, I'm sure there's plenty of people on the right that we could. I'm not here to argue. I'm saying I thought that it would be a net better for our society than it would be for. People are like, nah, we need a party that, or like a elective that likes my vote. The fuck you mean? Would you rather have Trump? That's who you're, like, you're giving it away. It's like, psychic war, okay? They've won the psychic war already. It's over, dude. So, no one wants to, like, feel like you're, isolated by your own party, dude. Like, it's gonna push aside, or just to be a moderate and not take political stances at all or engage with things critically.
Well, Tiberius, you talk about that all the time, how you feel like you've been politically alienated because you hate white men. Like, you've said that several times. I mean, you agree with yeah.
Like, I saw it firsthand, right? I actually ran with a group of people to displace my county chair. When it was all of a sudden over, we were trying to have a conversation about who was supposed to, have all the appointments and stuff. And this was the first glimpse I saw of it. And then it just happened more and more getting into, 2018 with the Me Too movement and going further from there. Is this the party cared about women more than they cared about men. And they also cared about minorities more than they care about white people. They made that very clear. And what's getting crazy to me is that they're like, oh, hey, we're the people who call everyone sexist and racist because they're actually the ones that are sexist and racist.
And
it's wild.
As well, that was another point I never got to.
No, listen. I thought about this for like a long time because especially grew up like in this particular swing of it. I think it's a little bit confusing, right? Because I grew up like in a pretty liberal place, so I'm like leaning towards ideas in general. It's either the quote unquote like far right pipeline because when things are getting so crazy the other direction, but you have to think about the fact that whatever women, whatever, like really if you look at the broad span of history, like the recent like obtaining of rights, obviously like it looked so extreme when it was like, oh my god, all these SJW blah blah blah, and I don't know, I think we'll be fine at the end of the day. We swing far left, we swing far right, just like at the end of the day, but I think everyone on the left that's like bitching still didn't go out and vote is retarded. Oop.
I don't really know. I don't know 100% if it's fair to say the Democrats like hate white men or like trying to appeal to.
It's not nearly as bad as what it was.
It might not be, but look, I just I really feel like the broader issue is that Democrats do kind of have their DI policies or whatever, and they do want to center women's voices and black voices or whatever, but there's no sort of general, broader, especially like economic policy that they attach to it to try to appeal to just the general populace, right? Like I do think, I don't want to bring it back to tariffs, but like the messaging with Trump and the economy, I'm going to bring prices down, I'm going to bring jobs back, and just like he literally had signs that said Kamala high prices, Trump low prices, right? Like this is. Democrats, they feel like just did not have that type of simple, broad messaging that would appeal to everyone.
Look, I mean, again, we're all putting way too much emphasis on online interactions and online politics. Like this is such a small portion.
Hold on, that's why I brought Kel because we and her had talked previously several times, and she's talked about how she's lost IRL friends over this, right? Like, I mean,
probably very online.
I'm talking about nationwide issue polling.
I'm talking about like my Uncle Simon, like as far as if you're talking about on an individual basis, bro, my Uncle Simon fucking was moved to the US too, but you don't have the right to stay in the United States. if you like are a felon, right? Like after you commit a felony. So after he like was in trouble in his 20s, they were like a detainment camp for like 3 years, and they were gonna send his ass back to Ireland, like fucking pack him up with a bag, and like, and he still went and voted for Trump, like knowing that his fucking immigration case could get like reopened or whatever the fuck. It's like there's clearly like some compulsion that people have to, because that's the thing is
What does that have to do with
it all comes back
being
to
online?
empathy. Because what do you mean, bro? Because literally, okay, here, I'm trying to by what the chatter said, but average debate enjoyer in chat said polling from
That's Tyler. Tyler's right here.
Okay. Do you have like where you pulled that from? Sorry.
I don't have
Yeah,
it offhand. I can find it for you if you need.
Yeah, he'll post. It's
Yeah.
probably just like
Because-
document of links.
And, dude, I'm telling you as someone who's like, bro, I was like on the right or like in the, bro, I'm a pretty far left person, and all my lefty friends like think that I need like mental reform, like re-education, and that I'm like, oh yeah, you've been watching too much Nick DiOrio or whatever. It's like, no, dude, no, like it's not really something you can talk about openly, dude. But that's the thing is I came into this conversation and I was like, it's retarded to say anything like on an individualistic basis, like, oh, this is my personal experience because it's social media. But I think we can see that it's kind of starting to real world things, right? Like with policy and stuff. You don't think so?
Sorry, I'm having trouble understanding you because you keep cutting in and out.
Yeah, okay. I was just about to put that in chat. Like,
I'll summarize. I mean, it's basically, I think what she's saying is like, okay, like a lot of this stuff seems like it's moved out of the online space. We have the Palestine stuff. She's lost friends IRL. These are not necessarily just, like online only people. These are people that are like you interact with every day, like on a daily basis. But if you have a different like view, suddenly, oh, you need to go to a re-education camp because, oh, I live in California and they think outside of the box. Guess what? That's bad. Re-education. You're evil for thinking, oh, Israel might have some justification, or oh, illegal immigrants maybe shouldn't be here because they're illegal. Like if you have any not party line, they vilify you. And this is IRL is what you're saying. And you're saying, oh, it's only online. And I don't know if the evidence.
I mean, how
supports that.
online are your friends that are saying this to you?
I'm talking about like real work. I work, so for reference, I live in one of the rural places you can think of, but I work in a pretty conservative place. I obviously, my language could use up, whatever. But I'm saying within the past 2 years, because it's always been, okay, whatever. I feel like most people are pretty moderate. And then you have your friends that are into politics that are really, but now it's like everyone, it's like you're either with us or against us. And that comes down to voting.
The people that are into politics that you're talking about are a very, very small minority of the voting base.
Well, I'm saying it was previously, and now it's like you are either on the left or on the right.
Yeah,
what do you mean?
It's
What do you mean?
it's like
How
she's
is
saying
that
like the
changed?
average person is like that, right? Like I'll give you an example from my personal life. One of my friends, Mel, the other day we were talking about Israel Palestine, and she brought up, oh, it's only she's not political. She's not a political person. I don't even know if she's ever voted. I think she's voted maybe once. I think this last election. And she brought up, we were talking about Israel Palestine, and I don't have a dog in the fight. I don't give a shit. Let them all kill each other for all I care. But I was like, she goes, oh well, half the women and half the population or over half is like women and children. I go, well, why is that? Is it because they fought a whole bunch of wars and a lot of the fighting age population have died, or is there any other factor to this? And she's like, well, I don't even want to hear about it. You're just evil for even asking these questions. I'm like, oh, okay. And I like, this is not a political person. This is not a permanently online person. And I mean, once again, I'm probably experiencing that from a conservative, but it seems like someone else on the left here is experiencing that. You're saying this is not happening.
No, it goes both ways. Like
Of course,
the reality.
where it pollinates, but it's like this is not a general trend.
Hold on, let him answer.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Tash. Sorry, Ivy. Go ahead.
Like,
Yeah,
I mean, unless you have some kind of numbers that show how people are engaging with politics online, and like this is like even 20% of the way that the average person engages with politics. Like, I don't think that it's super relevant to what have the Democrats done wrong in the past 30 years.
5 years.
30 years.
5 years.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think I can entertain that last one, but I just experienced it from both ends. Back during the late 2010s, the Democrats were fierce and just pushing out a lot of people and pure testing the fuck out of people. But once Roe took a shit, a lot of that backed off, and I gotta give Democrats credit for that. Where I'm actually at is the Republicans are kind of the pushy types right now. And my good friend Admiral Libs here is a great example of this, because anytime I remotely say that I'm right wing, oh boy, do I have to hear about that, So I'm going to blame Republicans more on this one. They've been the more exclusionary group that I've actually been running into.
because you are more left.
I would say that's the thing though. It's like that's.
Let's just stop talking in personal anecdotes because it's not going to get us anywhere.
They have a history, that's why.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're just memeing and dreaming because if we talk like big brain, here's all the data points. That's great, but it
Well,
that's the problem.
To have an
Like,
intelligent conversation about
no, that's the problem. You're like, this is the only way to have a conversation, and that is, this is the reality of what I've been trying to illustrate of why this is the problem. You guys are like, hey, we need to have a real big brain conversation here, and the reality is simply this.
What has
Guess what?
The Democrats
This is why no one's voting for
you. Democrats wronged you personally.
I have the statistic or the website.
Well, actually,
I'm just trying to outline. This is why Democrats are losing votes, is because they want to have these big brain conversations, and then everyone just goes, "Hey, I understand what you're telling me. I'm actually not that stupid. I don't fucking believe you. You have to actually convince me that immigration's a good thing, because I don't believe it is. I keep seeing more Javieres and Jesuses in the line for me to get my job."
Well, I mean, we can have that. We can have that conversation later if you want to set that up. But
we've already had that conversation. We don't need to have it again.
Let's move on to a different portion of this then, since we're kind of circling the drain on this part. Okay, let's talk about like the Democratic, the way that they elect the president, for example. Do we think that the Democratic National Convention needs to change? Are we satisfied with how it's going? A lot of Bernie bros switched to Trump because they felt shafted, and they went to the next populist, which happened to be Trump. Do we think that this is a problem? Like, what are our thoughts on this?
I mean, it's
I
more.
was on the verge of voting for
Oh,
Trump.
go ahead. Go ahead. Let Ivory go ahead. Go ahead.
Sure. So it's the biggest thing is it's way bigger than just like how people are voting for president. It's how people are engaging with politics at all. Like people don't. I brought this up in my opening, but people do not engage in the actual policy making. They don't have a stake in it. They don't have. They're not included in the process, and so we need institutions.
Did you go to your local election?
Yeah. So like people.
Did you go for it in your local election?
Well, don't dox yourself.
Look, like I voted for my local politician.
There you go.
So, anyway, like I don't like. It's not even about local elections. Like the point that I'm trying to say is we need completely new institutions that engage people in platform building, right? In policy building that is like. And it's going to be separate from the actual people that are elected, right? And like it doesn't need to be the same thing.
By, like, mass change, like obviously we can't unless it's literally like the revolution and we're pushed to the edge and it's affecting everyone's day-to-day life. Revolution is probably not going to happen.
I'm not saying revolution. I'm not saying changing anything about the political system. I'm saying adding something onto it.
No, you're saying we need entirely new systems. That's
no, I'm
never
not saying
gonna
that.
Happen, right?
I'm saying we need to build. We need to build a new system. We've built new systems all the time. Like we've built a central bank. We've built, econ.
So what would your perfect system look like?
I'm not saying it's a perfect system. I'm saying we need institutions that bring people together, that bring people into a common space, and have them talk to each other and come to a consensus on a policy, and then that gets recommended to lawmakers.
That's what Congress is for.
Meeting. It's not.
This is literally what
Congress is not.
This is what think tanks and Congress is for.
Congress is not bipartisan.
This is not. That's not how it works.
Let's
when you go to a town hall meeting, you can air your grievances, but there's no expectation to reach a consensus. There's no actual building of a policy idea. When you go to a town hall meeting, it's here's my policy.
You said people don't engage with politics. There's no place where people meet up to engage in politics, and we're like, this is what it is, and you're like, well, no, there's no place where people come to a consensus. Of course not. Of course not. Of course not. You're never gonna have a place where every single person in a society general consensus about how things should be.
Why not?
Because we have different morals and ethics.
Because that's an oversimplification.
Juries have different morals and ethics, and they come to a consensus.
Because some people think that I should be able to send that old lady home with a 29% APR because I need my money for my family now and she's gonna die soon. Some people think, hey, maybe we should all get fucking cars.
Well, there is evidence.
How do juries somehow manage to come to a consensus like 97% of the time or something ridiculous?
Because they have to. They're contractually obligated and they're forced to be there.
So let's do that. Let's make political events.
How to run off voters one-on-one.
Require the people that participate to come to a consensus, and let's.
Wait.
My understanding, I've never read.
Can someone just clip that, and then that's the lesson for this episode? Like, I don't know how to make it any better.
We're gonna
have you ever had jury duty?
And you'll vote for us.
No.
I
I
think-
very well have a
The
warrant out because
point-
I've skipped jury
I'm
duty.
saying
I don't want to
it's
do
a
that.
game. It's the rules of the rules of your engagement are that you're gonna come to a
In
consensus.
GTA,
Like,
Twitch.
we're not
Well,
going.
guess
to
what? We have this. It's on.
force people
It's
into
called
a box.
elections. This is
No,
literally
that's
what it
not
is.
what
No,
elections are.
no.
Literally
Elections are
have.
not that. Elections are
Well,
literally
okay,
first past the post. It's
Hold
the
on, hold on.
opposite. It's the opposite of a consensus.
Non-pod, you said no. What do you think, Non-pod?
First past the post is the most
What?
consensus
I
building one
would-
you can get.
It's literally the bare minimum to make a decision.
Okay.
No,
let's go
because
to
you
non-
want
Right.
representative representation, and that doesn't make consensus.
Okay, hold on,
I'm not
hold on,
saying
hold
to
on, calm
change the
down.
government.
Hold on. Calm down, everybody. Calm down. Okay. I'm gonna
No.
non-pod. I'm gonna non-pod. Hold on. Stop. 1 second. I do want to go non-pod. Non-pod said no, and he was very calm
Well.
and nice and paused. But I am a little confused. How you think it's equivalent to say a jury is like to come to a policy conviction is like we have hung juries all the time. Like what is it?
It's
Something like
remarkably rare.
well,
It's very, very
hold on.
rare.
Well, so, like, say, okay, that might not get the results you want, right? So, what does Thomas Jefferson say? He's like, oh,
We've literally done this. Like we've
Oh, hold
taken
on,
random
hold on.
people and said you're all of different political spectrums, and we've seen
No, but hold
what
on, hold
happens.
on,
when
hold
Right,
we're all
that's what I was gonna
supportive.
add. Is like there just is evidence. Like
ahead.
we just have done studies on this. Like,
your
and
thought,
it
kids.
seems like sortition is decently effective at bringing people to a consensus.
so here's the issue I take.
Yeah,
with
let's
that, right?
ignore that it's screened and that there's
It's not screened,
interviews
it's
and that there's a
completely
whole
random. It's
process. Yeah.
completely random.
No, hold on.
No, it's not completely random. That's why a jury is chosen by the lawyers.
But hold
No,
on.
no, I was talking about the
It's
petitions that they're doing.
hold on,
It's
hold on,
election.
All right, hold on.
I wasn't talking about
just-
juries there.
I just want to examine this
understand.
idea that you're putting forward real quick, though, right? Okay. So your argument is that juries do a good job of this. Now, the justice system, for example, with murder, right? I think we have a 10% conviction rate compared to like Japan's got like a 90% conviction rate. And the reason for that is the age-old Thomas Jefferson thing when they had like, oh, it's better to let 10 guilty men go free than one innocent man go to jail. So your argument, hey, we're going to have a jury and the standard is reasonable doubt. And we're going to like, we think we're going to come to a consensus on what reasonable doubt is. I think that's one standard that is pretty easy to meet versus we're going to have 10 people get together from like let's get Gibbs the Texas rancher, we're gonna get Kel the fucking Californian,
we've done
and
the
we're gonna
studies.
get
The
you,
reason-
I don't know where you're at, and we're gonna get together and we're gonna say one policy that covers all these different people's individual needs. And you're gonna like I don't know that that's the same as a reasonable doubt standard at like a
So-
level when you get to a 350 million person country. Do you
So
disagree
the
with
reason why I
that?
brought up juries is because it's something that I know you're familiar with, but there are studies that we've done using this exact method of bringing people together, saying you need to come to a consensus on this policy position. We're going to have experts like guide you through the evidence, and
That's
you
not
need
what
to
would
come
happen,
to
though. Do you think that's how you would operate? Sorry.
what?
I'm an asshole.
Yeah,
Sorry.
why can't it operate that way?
No, because it's never been. Here's a system, and let me give you all
Yeah,
the
it's
stuff
never
to
been
help
that
you
way.
through it. It's like,
Exactly. I'm saying let's add something new.
All right. Well, I
I
got
just hate
about
the
6 different ways I want to take
hypothetical
this conversation.
society. No.
Alright.
Let me.
Yeah, like the problem is we are getting like very hypothetical brain, which is
The whole point is what
Listen,
the Democrats do next.
listen.
It's
Listen.
possibly
If
not
you
be
put 10
hypothetical.
people in a room,
Okay,
No,
go
let
ahead.
me
Cal,
get
then we're
to
gonna tell you. Go ahead. Go ahead, Cal. Then we're gonna
Bro.
tell you.
bro, you think you got a letter in the mail and it's like, hey, we are going to charge you? You could be fucking charged with a crime if you do not
No.
show up for this?
No, I don't think
Contractually
that's- I don't think
obligated
we should. I
decision?
don't think there should be any contractual obligations or legal
Okay, well, that's what you're
ramifications. It should be
suggesting.
complete-
You're saying
No,
that
I'm
we
not- I'm not
put people in a
suggesting
room and we force them to make a decision.
No, I'm saying the purpose of people coming voluntarily is that they want to come to a consensus. Like that's
But
like
that's
this is, like,
democracy.
the
But you're saying we would
staple
force
of the
everyone to
group.
vote.
What? No.
What? If it's like
This is
jury,
not-
okay,
this has
right?
nothing to
If
do with
you're, like-
voting. This is about building policy platforms. It's about building recommendations
Okay, but if
to
you're like,
policymakers.
if you're contractually obligated to make a decision one way or the other, I don't
You're
know
not
about you.
contractually
When I
obligated.
first
It's-
when I first like turned 18, okay, and I had to vote. Okay, not had to vote, but it was like the first time that I could vote. I went out and I voted for Howard Green. It's our Green Party word. Like without
You're not
discussion.
contractually
You
obligated to
think
do
that would be-
anything.
Yeah.
Hey,
Do you think that
YOLO.
would be a net,
Not a
a
waste
net
of
good
vote.
for
I'm not-
society
I'm not
though?
Advocating
Yeah, to encourage
contractually obligate someone to do anything.
well, I'm
This is
sorry,
all
but that's
completely
what I
of
heard.
people's free will.
Well,
okay,
here's the problem. If it's just hold on, if it's a free
That's what we
will,
have right now.
if it's a free will voluntary process, yeah, this is what elections are. Like just straight
That's
up.
not what elections are.
Hold on.
Elections,
Well, that's
there's no
interesting. You say that.
deliberation. You don't.
We have an
you don't
example.
talk to
We have
the
an
voters.
example. We have an example of this though. Like it's HOAs, right? Like we kind of talked about that earlier. Aren't HOAs basically whoever wants to do it ends up making all the policy because they're the ones that want to go down there, and then the people that live there are like,
Yes,
holy
but
shit, this
HOAs
is
are
terrible
not
because I'm busy
consensus-driven.
all the time. Well, yeah, because
That's
it's
why we
only
get
the
people
ones.
from drugs and bad food, so they don't go vote.
Wait, hold on a second. How are HOAs not consensus driven?
Yeah.
Because a consensus is everyone agreeing, right? An HOA is often just the majority agreeing.
Well, you just hold on.
I don't even know.
Hold on. Let's just examine that, right? So Kel's pointed out, like, kind of accurately here. The only way you're gonna get what you're doing is if you require them. And Tiberius also kind of took that way.
No,
you're
that's
saying
not
no. Hold
true.
on. You're saying
No, it is true.
Oh, hold on. You're
We've
saying
literally
no.
done
Hold
this.
on.
Yes, by force.
Everybody stop. I'm just gonna
That's
mute
not-
I'd
everybody.
like you to come to a consensus.
All right. I'm gonna mute everybody. Hold on, stop. Just let me get my thought out. So this is what you said. All right, you said we're not gonna contractually or punish them. We're not gonna have the government force them to go. Okay, that's what you said. So the only people in my argument, my question is okay, what about HOAs? HOAs exist where the only people that make the policy are the ones that want to go. So if you're not going to, and your response was, oh, everybody's got to get a say, right? Otherwise, it's not what I'm saying. So the problem then becomes, how
You
is
have to
everybody
force
going
people.
to, you're going to have
No,
to
you don't
force
have to
people.
force people.
You're going to, well, no, you are going to have to force people because if I, like, for example, I have
You
never
invite
once-
people
well, let me give
cordially.
you
You knock
let
on
me
their
give you an
door and say,
example.
hey,
I
your
have an
neighbor
HOA.
went and did
This
this.
house,
say no.
Hold on. Everybody finish.
And
This
that's
house-
okay.
Hold
They
on,
can say no.
hold on.
Congratulations, you have
Hold on,
elections.
Stop.
That's not elections.
Stop. So this house that I own is an HOA. I have never once been to an HOA meeting. I've got nasty letters, and I've complained to the HOA about several things that have happened, right? And I bitched about it, and I've made my thoughts known. And now, because I don't go to the HOA meetings, I don't get a vote, I don't get a say, I don't get yada yada. Even though I'm nicely invited, you're not getting it. Now, if they required me to go, then hey, because guess what? I work nights. My job starts
You'll
at
still
fucking
get a-
4
you'll still
p.m.
get a
every day to
vote.
4 a.m. But that's not me getting involved in the
If you don't
process.
go, like I'm saying this is completely separate from our current legislative system. That you can still vote. Like the voting system still exists the exact same way it exists now. We just have this other institution that is held up by political parties that is saying we're going to bring people together, we're going to entice them, we're going to like feed them, maybe, I don't know, and we're going to just have them, and we're going to say,
We're gonna
please
follow
come
the
on
party.
on this issue.
Democracy is saved. Democracy saved.
Yeah, let
I'm
us
so
finish it.
fucking
All right,
lost
so let's
here.
go.
Let's spend money on this is what I'm saying. Let's have the political parties spend money on this.
Okay, if
Yeah.
it's outside of elections, how is this not think tanks?
They
It is
have,
think
and
tanks,
it's
but
unpopular
everyone
still.
is invited.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay,
everyone
yeah.
is invited. Like that's the
All right,
thing.
All right, order
Everyone
the
is
court.
not
Let me go.
invited to
Let
a
me
think tank.
go to
It's
Tyler
been a
here.
while
Let's
since
go
I
to-
jumped
Hard
in
to be
here.
on the left right now.
Yeah,
bro.
everybody calm.
It's been a while since I
Let
jumped in
Tyler
here.
talk. Yeah, let
If you
Tyler
look at
talk.
the
Let
top
him do it.
20 mainstream news outlets, almost all of them lean or skew Democrat politically, and almost all of them have more Democrat leaders. If you look at the writers, if you look at the top social media websites, almost all of them skew more in their rule set and what they allow left wing and have much more left wing users. The only one that's split down the middle is Twitter of the top 7. So if you look at all this data, the messaging apparatus on the Democratic side is significantly more vast than the messaging apparatus on the right wing side. This has existed.
You're
Everyone
conveniently living a
knows.
podcast.
Everyone
That's also
knows your
disingenuous.
points. Everyone's heard your points. It's not a messaging issue. They don't believe you. They don't trust you, and they don't like what you're pushing.
I don't
That's it.
understand how
Whoa,
you're
whoa,
boiling
whoa.
down what I'm saying to messaging. This is not messaging. This is
Yeah.
people
No,
deciding
he's
on the
reframing the
platform.
conversation. Like
I'm not
we're moving
reframing. I'm
on.
taking what you're saying. You're saying we need to spend more
Oh,
money.
everyone's-
We
I'm
need
not,
to
I'm not
compel
saying
people
we
to
should-
listen.
This
and
is
we
how we teach people what's going on. I'm saying
that's messaging.
people decide what they're going to advocate for themselves.
That's
through
messaging.
consensus.
Is teaching them. Is re-educating
That is
them.
not
Is
teaching- that is not-
messaging. Yes, that's a messaging.
Re-education is a side product of this. It is not.
It's
This
messaging.
is
If
not
you're
like
educating
a.
people on
It's
your
not the
narrative,
primary goal.
That's messaging.
Wait, hold on.
If
I
no
want
one
to
learned
talk about that.
anything, it would still be fine.
Let's go back to that. I'm sorry, my
Oh, dear
my
God.
conservative conspiracy brain. Guys, see, no, I can't move. Can we go back to teaching them and re-education being a side product or like adjacent?
Not,
goal?
not
What do you?
No,
re-education,
okay.
it's
What do you
education.
Mask
mean
off
by this?
leftism.
What do we
Like,
mean
it's
by
not
this?
re-education. It's just
I
education.
use that word, not him.
Listen, because I talk to other people that talk about sortition, like I think I understand what he's saying, and like I can maybe see how you hear the word re-education there and think that there's some like evil grand conspiracy or whatever. But what he's talking about is
Nazis are evil.
it's just that it's just people going in a room having a conversation exchanging ideas. They probably, Americans are stupid, so there probably does need to be, okay, some type of presentation beforehand. Okay, you probably do need to say, like, this is what the evidence says on X policy sometimes. But you need to have people who have different opinions go into a room, exchange ideas, come to a consensus on a policy they all think maybe it's not ideal of what they would want in their ideal world, but it's at least, better than what we have currently. And there seems to be evidence, we have done studies on this before, that to some extent this works.
You're right. It did work. It worked in favor of the Republicans this time, and that's why most people.
What are you talking?
Okay, elections are not sortition.
Hold on. Let Tyler talk. Let Tyler talk.
Yeah, the election is the end result of a 2-year campaign where they go out to every city and talk to people.
Elections are completely different.
How you get your message out. This is how the real world works. Like, we can go reform society and dump a bunch of money into propaganda and think tanks.
No, this is not about getting a message out. This is saying, hey, politicians, this is what we, the local community, wants to do.
That's what elections do.
Well, what happens when you run into the situation where the local communities, I don't know, vote for Bernie Sanders, and then the national convention picks Hillary Clinton? What do you do then?
Like, this is just completely.
Why did you go here?
What I was talking about.
Well, I mean, because I'm asking. He's saying he wants this outside of the political. That he wants the parties to do this outside, and I would say that the Republicans seem to have a better idea of this. They have the primaries. They fight out the ideas, and then we go and we have a consensus, and that's why you see on the right.
Do not
like,
have a consensus.
I'm sure we do. We have more of a consensus. Hold on. We have majority vote. Hold on. We have more. Hold on. We have more of a consensus than the Dems do, right? Like, for example.
No.
You can put me.
It's not about more of a consensus.
You can put me. And, hold on. You can put me and Pentuple and like Lactoid and Fabian Liberty and Rob Noor in a room, and we can have a list of priorities, like whatever, and we could go, okay, I don't like this, I don't like this, you like this, I don't like this, and we can come to an agreement and put out a standard thing. What you're saying though is, and then the candidate runs on that platform, and they go against the other people nationally, they win the primary, and they go, and now they're the national person. So what you're saying for the Dems though is, we're gonna have these, I guess, not think tanks, but we're gonna do whatever. They're gonna push this policy. Hopefully, say a candidate does pick this policy up. The candidate pushes that policy. Say they even win. We're going to get to the national convention, and the people that are the elitists are going to go, nope, and then just pick the guy they were going to pick anyway. Do you not see that being an issue? That's why I brought this up, because it seems to me like that already happened with Bernie, and it was rejected by the
that's why I'm saying that the elites that run this need to be the ones implementing it, right? If the elites are saying we're going to implement this and then we're going to do what you say, then that doesn't happen. Right, and like that's what I'm saying. We need to build this, and that's what Democrats' elites need to do.
But
we already have it. Like
we already have it. It didn't work.
What do you mean we already have it? What consensus building apparatus are you?
You will not get it. Okay, so here's the problem. Like, getting people to majority is hard enough. There's no consensus out of this unless you force people. Like, no, I'm serious. You got to get everybody either to A, get together, or B, whoever their representative is have to have a deadline.
Believe me that if you look up a study that says we're going to bring a bunch of random people from across the political spectrum, Democrat and Republican, and we put them in a room, we give them a presentation about an issue, and then we allow them to deliberate. We do multiple rounds of this deliberation, and then at the end of it, they come to a consensus. Will you grant me that exists and that they found that works?
Yeah. Do I grant that it exists? Yes. Problem. Half the time it's fucking loaded at best. Because let's see.
On what basis do you say that it's loaded?
It's like, all right, cool. We're gonna what is our consensus? And I ask the most browbeater, dumbed down questions you possibly can. Do you believe that you should have better wages?
On what basis
yes.
Are you making that claim? You're not making that claim on any kind of basis.
You're gonna hate this, but it's personal experience. I've seen this way too many times with these questionnaires.
I promise you that you've never participated.
I didn't prepare for this conversation and like getting my data downloads of hey.
Just say I don't know, and then just say okay, that's interesting. Let me go think about it. You don't have to disagree with me.
No, I am gonna disagree with you because it's like, hey, look, anytime I've gone through some of this shit, I just don't have these all cited out where it's like, yeah, I saw this poll. Look at that question at the end where everybody agreed. Do I want more vacations at the end of the year?
Both are bad arguments. I think that you should have some evidence. You should have some evidence to back it up. You don't need evidence to back up everything. Some things are like just society.
I wasn't prepared to back this one up with evidence, pal. I really didn't think we were gonna have to go, oh, hey, we gotta talk about how specific polling is when it comes to why the Democrats are retarded.
Hold on, this is interesting, Tiberius. Hold on, this is interesting what you just touched on, Tiberius. What you just touched on this, Tiberius, and I think it's interesting, is that anecdotal life experience matters to the Dems until it doesn't, right? Like how dare I tell an African American man his lived life experiences doesn't happen? But hey, if Tiberius says his anecdotal life experience, your response is show me the data.
No, hang on. If Tiberius says I'm gonna vote for this because my anecdotal life experience leads me to think this, I'm gonna say more power to you. That is base as hell that you're doing that. If we're gonna say you're wrong on the facts because of my anecdotal life experience, then I have a problem.
What did he contradict you with?
We hear
because
this.
he said that if you take people in a room and you say, please come to a consensus, that doesn't happen. And he said that when the studies do show that this happens, it's because the studies are using some weird version of consensus
we're on a group move right now, aren't we? And we're not coming to a consensus.
Yeah, come to a consensus.
This is not structured. Like, this is a structured process that guides people to coming to a consensus. The way that this is structured is not at all designed to lead to a consensus.
This is the layman reinventing the wheel and telling the experts that have mastered this process that they're just doing it wrong. The political strategists that go to school for this shit, that do it their entire lives, they know the nuances of the vague things you're citing here. They do these things. They have get out the vote drives. They have educate people drives. They do all these things to get people in. You cannot just force people.
Why do you keep saying this?
I think the reason we're not coming to a consensus is because you have not been educated in what sortition is.
People coming to a consensus saying this is the policy platform.
All right, go ahead, Cal. Well, hold on. We're going to Cal now. Go ahead.
Dude, are you... Repeat what you just said.
How is people saying get out the vote the same as people literally building the policy and then making the recommendation to the legislators?
Fuck.
Oh, she lost it again.
Hit me.
Okay, so the two things that are different are like campaign professionals saying, here's how we're going to educate the populace, here's how we're going to campaign and do a and like run campaign ads and get people out to vote. That I'm saying that is very different from people coming together and saying, this is our platform, this is what we want our legislators to do, and we've come to a consensus. We've done extensive deliberation on this, and now you're
wrong.
What the RNC and DNC do.
You're wrong. I'm saying that the way that we would, yes, because you would say that the way to have it.
Are those two things different? Are those the same thing?
Yes, I'm about to explain why, but sorry, ladies first. Are you done? Okay, great. Sorry. I'm sorry. Okay. Listen. The thing is, you're saying we need everyone to participate in this for it to be and educated. Not just participate. We need everyone to be invited to the fucking pizza party. Education all around. That's great.
Education is not the primary goal of this.
Okay, education, indoctrination. I'm sorry.
No, it's not.
I'm sorry. I'm kidding. Encouraging people to politics, okay?
No, it's not even about encouraging. It's about people feeling like they were responsible for this decision. It's giving people...
I feel like your argument merit, but your argument should be on the basis of the effing electoral, not the fact that people need to be educated and invited to a pizza party to participate in democracy. That's crazy.
Or not the DNC. Notice how the examples of sortition on the Wikipedia page.
Inviting people to a pizza party and then they get to decide what they want the politicians to do.
That's great. And plenty of fucking like local like debate.
Well, what happens when people don't go to that? Like, what about me? Like, okay, so I brought the HOA thing. Like, listen. I work 4 p.m. to like 4 a.m. every day. That's when I work, right? Like, and then I have meetings sometimes before that for some of my other companies. And like, so you're telling me when I wake up at noon and I fucking work my fucking other 2 jobs and then I work my main job and I stream simultaneously like till the 4 in the morning every night. You're telling me while I'm doing that, I should also decide, hey, the fucking, I don't know, HOA meeting is at
so that's
6
exactly
p.m.
why we don't replace our current legislative system.
The HOA is meeting at
still get to vote.
Hold on, let me finish here. The HOA is meeting at 6 p.m. on Wednesday. I have 3 business meetings that day. So you expect me to go down to the HOA and I somehow enjoy this pizza party and I'm going to get my input. Now, if I don't go in there and give them my input, I'm just supposed to have a vote at the next HOA meeting and my input wasn't in it. Doesn't seem like a consensus was reached at all, including me. It sounds like a consensus was reached by the ones that at the time, or the ones that go, how am I going to get that?
By voting, because this is not replacing representatives. This is not replacing any part of the legislative system. This is a completely additional thing that we are spending more money on to do this, right? Like, so here's the thing, right?
So
if you don't have the time to go and participate in this, and therefore it's not representative of the community, your representative can say, I'm not going to listen to this recommendation because it's not representative of my constituents.
So states can now opt out of voting. Cool. Okay, no, that makes no sense. That's
not what I said.
I would encourage the audience just to go to the Wikipedia page for sortition.
All of my people time to make it to the pizza party and make up their mind this week. I'm sorry. What do you have to do that you put off? That's like government related, even if it affects your day-to-day life. Yes, I would like to. Everyone would go participate and educate and reach the greater idea. And you keep saying, and you're like, well, not under this structure, not under this structure. What I said from the jump, you are saying that we need to entirely reform the system.
No, I've been saying,
yes,
repeatedly, we're not reforming anything. We're just adding something very
you
specific.
finish, but you let no one finish. Everyone lets you finish, but bro.
Yeah, you do need to shut the fuck up a little bit.
Like, that is crazy. That is crazy, dude. I'm sorry.
All right.
No.
All right, Gibbs, where do you want it to go?
I got it. Where I want to. Everybody calm down. Where I wanted to go is Tyler is going to tell me why. Yeah, you're done. Hold on. Calm down. Everybody's annoying. I'm annoying. Listen, Tyler, you're going to go take this somewhere. I know you have a place for it because we got about 5 minutes before we have to do closings. Go ahead and give me your thoughts here, Tyler.
Well, I was trying to go back to my original point a lot here. In that
we're moving it. Go ahead.
We're going lying, credibility issue, but a part of that isn't just the bigotry if you don't agree with our extremely unpopular stances that are fully represented by the majority, if not the whole party. But it's also the conspiracy theorist shit. We saw this with the Trump-Russia hoax. If you said that Trump and Russia didn't collude, you were a conspiracy theorist. Turns out 3 years later you were right. The COVID lab leak. If you didn't believe this, you were a conspiracy theorist. Now, fun. I see your look. The report says no collusion, written by Mueller, and he backed it up.
I understand the Mueller report did say that they didn't have enough evidence to recommend charges of Trump and Russia directly colluding, but it found that like multiple people were charged with like conspiracy because they interacted with Russian.
Who was charged with conspiracy?
Paul Manafort. I know. Yeah,
Paul Manafort was charged with VARA violations and money laundering from 2009.
Maybe.
What he worked with the guest group. I've read this shit.
Hold on. There were, correct me if I'm wrong, were there people who worked for the Trump campaign charged with their connection to Russia?
No. Well, okay. Yeah, I mean, Paul Manafort, yes, but not while he was working for the Trump campaign. It was while he was working for
was there evidence in the Mueller report of people with Trump's campaign actually colluding with Russia, even if they weren't charged?
No.
There was nothing in the Mueller report that suggested people in Trump's campaign, not Trump himself, but people in Trump's campaign colluded with Russia.
Yes, there was none. I read the entire thing. I watched the hearings, everything. Yes. I can go through the Durham. I can go through the whole report with you. Then we can go through the Durham report and find out the entire thing was cooked up by the Clinton campaign, and FBI corrupt officials inside the FBI used that, lying to the FISA courts and altering CIA emails to get wiretaps on the incoming president. So I can go through all that with you. I've read it all.
It's a real shame that you're getting bullied for being a conspiracy theorist is the reason why we don't have affordable housing.
That's not me. The majority of the U.S. population is being told they're conspiracy theorists for believing things. Joe Biden's age, Hunter Biden's laptop, all these things were real, and we were told. Dude, I'm talking. Shut the fuck up for like 5 seconds, please. So again, I just every fucking time I talk,
never let anyone disappoint.
Everybody say Jesus Christ.
There's 4 examples. Of people being called conspiracy theorists, then they were right. So when you're telling people they're bigots, they're liars, and they're fucking crazy, and they end up being right on all these different issues, they don't believe you anymore. So you can't just message them into an extremely unpopular immigration stance. We already have the consensus. We already have how we reach that consensus. It's voting. And right now you can look at polls like Economist YouGov, where Trump's underwater in his overall approval rating, very underwater in his economic and inflation handling, yet he's above water in immigration because the majority of the country sides with what he's doing. So like poll after poll, this is the only thing he's above water in. And he's crushing it in immigration, border security, crime, and national security because of his immigration policy. We have the consensus, and it's that your party did it wrong. Ignoring the laws and abusing our asylum system was bad. People didn't like it.
All right, Cal, go ahead, Cal. Hold on, we'll let Cal go. Go ahead,
Trump
Cal.
did, yes.
No. That's my point. I don't have anything to say. I just think
Fucking kill me, dude.
You're both oversimplifying it so much to the extreme where it's like you're. I think that when we push like both to the extreme where it's like either open borders or fucking. No, most people want a better, more efficient system for people to get in the country. But when we're doing this thing where it's like, okay, like that's crazy, like demonize the point that each other makes. This is why there's no like political alignment, like party progress, like like we all go on the defensive. Granted, because yeah, we went through like the SJW era and blah blah blah. But I'm like, when people like you are here like making the arguments on the left, like bro, nothing you've said makes sense, and you just like keep moving the goalposts on it every time I go. And instead of engaging with it, oh, I remembered what I was gonna say. You keep saying, and you denied it. You were like, oh yeah, I'm not saying that we need to just rebuild society, but then you're saying, well, it wouldn't work. Your pizza parties would only work. You said it wouldn't work under this government.
No, I never said that.
So what are you suggesting that?
I never said it wouldn't work.
Yes,
I said it could work, and you said, and I specifically asked you why couldn't this work, because you made the claim that it wouldn't work, and I said why not?
No,
why don't we do this?
Well, hold on. She answered that, and I think Andreas answered that, and I answered that, and you didn't really respond to that.
I mean, I did respond to it, but you didn't understand what I was saying. I guess.
No, okay, all right. Let me try this one more time, and then we're gonna move the closings here, because I think that Cal.
Like, how would it work? Because you're saying,
yeah,
okay, would you be encouraged to go get educated under this system? What's the system in which it would work?
The goal is not education. The goal is that people feel like they were responsible for the policy being implemented.
Right.
So you're talking about the electoral college. Like, that has nothing to do with anything we've talked about.
How, like, I have no idea how you jumped from for the policy being implemented to the electoral college.
So how you're saying that? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, on that note, here we are at time, and I have somewhere else to be, and I know Tyler also does. We're going to wrap this up now. This has been very lively. I was just it's always, this is why we do these left panels, because y'all just y'all love to eat each other alive. It's very fun for me. I enjoy it quite a bit. I don't know what you're saying. You break it up there, but all right. Here's what's gonna happen. Okay, go vote.
You can be responsible. You can be responsible if you want to be.
All right, good. We're wrapping up. I got 3 minutes here. So, Tyler, closing name, where to find you, and closing thoughts rapidly, folks, because I got places to be. So go ahead.
Average debate enjoyer. I'm going to be on that grid panel with him as well. Ivory, if you want to come, we need more people arguing from the left. I'm going to be debating
I'll join
today. Kel, my fiance appreciates you were the only person that waved back to her.
Aw.
Everything I said was correct. I'm completely backed by all the polling data. And if anyone disagreed with me, they were obviously wrong. The only thing that matches my intellect is my empathy. And
oh my god!
If this panel would have went better if you guys just would have let me and Tiberius monologue.
Fantastic. I don't know if I agree with that. I'll say that for sure. I'll tell you, there's nothing more I like listening to than stats and watching paint dry. Go ahead.
Wait,
Kel,
wasn't that the other two?
It was, I don't know. It was something. Go ahead, Kel.
I'm sorry I'm late, you guys. I appreciate you being here with me. I'm working on better at talking over people, and thanks for taking my Twitch pool V card.
Fantastic.
Oh, and you can find me on Kinetic Kel on YouTube and on Twitch now, I guess, too.
Fantastic. Not fun.
Yeah, I'm non-fun. If you want to see me defend the fact that the gains from trade are large, okay, and the gains from immigration are large, and we should open our borders to both labor and capital, you can catch me streaming live at NonFun420 and Twitch and Kick, or at NonFun on YouTube, where I also upload all of these debates. There's a bunch of old debates that you guys should all go watch. I guess closing thoughts. Listen, I'm sortition curious. I've never done a ton of reading on it, but I think it definitely, I think there definitely is a strong argument for it, especially within parties. I think that could be a useful mechanism. And listen, I just think the Democrats need bolder, simpler policy that most working Americans can get behind. And that's going to be things like Medicare for all. That's going to be, there might be a way to make YIMBYism part of that. There might be a way. I'm hopeful. But yeah, that's my overall final thought.
All right, Ivory Fool.
Hey, I'm the Ivory Fool. You can find me on at Mr. Ivory Fool on YouTube. And I'll just say, yeah, I think I think I did talk over people, and I was kind of toxic, so I apologize for that.
Okay, we like that here sometimes.
We're getting better. We're getting better.
Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I mean that's it. I think I got a lot of airtime.
Fantastic. Yeah, good. I heard someone tell me my moderation was biased not too long ago, and I was like, I don't know about that. I try to be unbiased as much as I can, or at least tell people where my bias is coming from. Go ahead, Tiberius.
Yeah, I'll kill the person.
He might have been the one that got biased against, if anybody did. Nah, I'm just.
I mean, it's a personal grudge, right? Anyway,
no grudge.
Let me get this outro here real quick. I'm not gonna do the personals because y'all can fuck off. Here, where it comes down to is, I think this panel is the example that I'm actually trying to convince people of. Is that when I talk to non-fawn, folks like Ivory Fool, it's, hey, look. I'm coming to you with my personal experience because I'm fixing your fucking air conditioning, not on the internet all day. And the problem is that at one point, I went to college. And I went to college for economics. And I've seen the same data that you probably have. And the problem is that when it comes down to it, on the human level, my experience does not reflect the data. And so do so many of your fellow Americans. And they're coming to you and saying, reach me at a human level. Talk to me like I'm not stupid. And that's the reality. It's always, oh, hey, well, you know what? Your personal experience doesn't matter. And what they're actually saying is, you don't fucking matter. It's a wonder why these people are losing fucking votes.
Fantastic. I appreciate it. This has been a lively one. Thanks so much for joining us. We will be having more of these, I think, soon on Fridays and stuff. We might have to come up with a new Friday name. But, yeah, thank you all so much for joining. I'm going to go do this grid thing, I think, now, because why not? And then we're going to Sloshcast for anybody to stay. Next week, starting Sunday, we're going to be doing Kurt's Backrooms show. I'm going to be hosting it. I'm going to basically Lana from Too Hot to Handle. It's going to be exciting. Come check that out. And then after that, I have panels scheduled for every day between Monday and next I basically got 2 weeks of panels scheduled out for every day except for the Saturdays both weeks. And most of them have two panels a day. Yeah, we're on the grind, bro. So come check them out. We're going to be yelling at people, and I won't be always the reasonable one, which is a rare occurrence. It's so fun being the reasonable, calm, collected one here, That's why
God damn it!
Yeah, because I'm toxic. All right, guys, we'll see y'all later. Check us out at Grids here in a minute. Thank you all guys for coming.
See you guys.
Oh
Oh my god. Dude, I really just feel like they did it. They just didn't understand what sortition means, bro. Oh my god. I really feel like that was most of the fucking issue with that panel. We talked about that way too long, okay? But whatever, fun time. Yeah, I don't know, like, I just really, I don't feel like there was, much pushback, really, kind of either way, on, the non-sortition issues. Like, I don't know. Like, I heard Tyler, like, mention, we didn't really talk about this. It was like, oh, because clearly not a messaging problem because Democrats own all those social media platforms and, they're woke or whatever. And it's like, okay, well, I mean, like, when I say messaging problem, I don't think it was that hard to understand. Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know why they were not getting it. They were like, I can't believe you want to replace the entire U.S. government with sortition. It's like, no, not what I'm saying. So you're talking about the Electoral College? No, I'm not talking about that. I don't know what you mean by. I don't know how you got to that. It's like the Electoral College is like the opposite of sortition. It's like, but it's like, okay, like when I say the Democrats have a messaging problem, like I just feel like, but it really is the thing I talked about. Like I just think Americans are stupid. I think the rhetoric of Kamala high prices, Trump low prices, like is, effective messaging. I don't feel like the Democrats have played into that, and I think I just don't think they have a policy like, Medicare for all. I think would be a good thing to run on, even though I'm not a single payer guy. I think that is probably just an effective thing to run on. I should have mentioned this. Look at the New York mayor, Zoran. His messaging is really, really, really insanely good. And his policy is not necessarily the best. I don't know if it's actually any, I don't know how significantly worse it is than like Cuomo or whatever, because I don't know much about Cuomo, but just copy what he's doing on the messaging, probably not the policy. Oh, and I do think the thing I mentioned earlier about the also saying like this is like super pro-trans radical stuff, but it's just like nominating a transgender person. It's just like I'm not going to discriminate because you're trans, or maybe I don't know. Maybe he did it as a like DI hire or something. Yeah, but I do think this is a I don't know how to fix this problem, but I do think this is an issue. We argue that the Democratic Party's evolution on economic policy helps explain partisan realignment by education. We show that less educated Americans differentially demand pre-distribution policies, e.g. federal jobs guarantee, higher minimum wages, protectionism, and stronger unions, while more educated Americans differentially favor redistribution, taxes, and transfers. This educational gradient and policy preferences has been largely unchanged since the 1940s. We then show the Democrats' policy of predistribution has declined since the 1970s. We tie this decline to the rise of self-described New Democrat Party faction who court more educated voters and are explicitly skeptical of predistribution. Consistent with this faction's growing influence, we document the significant growth of donations from highly educated donors, especially from out-of-district donors who play an increasingly important role in Democratic, especially New Democrat, primary campaigns relative to Republican primaries. In response to these within-party changes in lower, less educated Americans began to lead the Democratic Party in the 1970s after decades of serving as the party's base. Roughly half of the total shift can be explained by their changing views of the party's economic policies. We also show that in the crucial transition period of the 70s to the 80s, Democrat aligned candidates draw disproportionately from more educated voters in both survey questions and actual congressional elections. So I don't know how to fix this because this is part of the issue that we touched on, which me saying the median voter is stupid or whatever, which I think is a little bit unfair characterization of my position, but I think it basically just is true that redistributive policies, right, saying that if there are losers from trade, we're just going to take a little bit from the winners and compensate to the losers, are better than pre-distribution policies saying we're just not going to have free trade. I think the evidence is just very strongly in favor of the latter being preferable to the former there, right, of redistribution being preferable to pre-distribution. Although, apparently there was a good study on a federal jobs guarantee, okay, that so maybe, I don't know, maybe that's good or whatever, but yeah. I just think most of the evidence shows redistribution is just almost always preferable to these type of pre-distributive policies, they call them. Anyway, I would go to Grützing. I would stay on for longer, okay? But I am leaving tomorrow, all right? And I have not even finished packing yet. I packed most of my clothes. I need to pack my other shit, and I need to get my Kindle set up with anything I might want to read while I'm there. Real quick, though. This video that I'm only an hour through from friend of the stream, okay, Pachi David, this is a goated video, okay? You guys should all go watch this video. Trump's, you know what? I should post it in my Discord. Trump's first 100 days in 222 minutes or less. This video, goated. Absolutely goated. I'm going to link it in my Discord in a second here. Which, if you guys have not joined the Discord, make sure to join the Discord, okay? I'll be basically without Wi-Fi for most of the time, but I will make sure once a day, okay, to go to that office to check in on the Discord, to check up on Twitter a little bit. So, yeah, go to nonfun.gg to join the Discord and follow me everywhere, okay? I will not be streaming, but other people will be streaming on this channel. Rinyold will be streaming. So will Isaac and JC on this channel. And they'll multi-stream to their channels as well. Okay, so if you want to watch them their channels, okay, go support them because they're helping me. But yeah, if anyone wants to fund, okay, my vacation, okay, which absolutely does not actually need funding because it's a YMCA family camp. There aren't really any upcharges there that I can even buy. Last time, you're gonna have to go a week without watching a twerk break, okay? Because no donations or bits or Prime subs or whatever, or even just liking and subscribing. Okay. But yeah, I'll see you guys in a week. Enjoy your week without me. Yeah, vacation or an event coming up. It's a vacation. It's like a YMCA family camp that we go to every year. So it's a vacation. Yeah. See you guys in a week. Love you guys. Really cool. You guys all watch me stream. Subscribe, follow, all that jazz. Head over to Grid on YouTube. Is where you're going. I'll see.